Go Figure TV. Revolutionary salute. Revolutionary salute. Like, share, subscribe. Welcome to the House of Revolution. You know I'm your humble host, the Y'all Mean Revolution. And we got to get into the update on the Ukrainian would-be assassin. Salute, Queen. We got to get into this. Allegedly, this guy might have been hired by Ukraine. Oh, that's what the evidence is looking like. But first, be sure to wipe your feet. That means hit the like button. You in the House of Revolution. Like, share, subscribe, support the platform, y'all. Salute to everybody in the building. I got plenty of new information. I told y'all they weren't going to be able to hide it. Even CNN reporting his Ukraine ties. They cannot hide. This man that loves Ukraine. He hates Russia. He hates Putin. He's fighting for democracy. Well, where could he have got that from? Let's get deep into this.
Yesterday, as many of you already know, a man tried to assassinate Donald Trump. This is the second assassination attempt in only 2 months.
See, they can't hide.
Now, fortunately,
in
this circumstance, the Secret Service was prepared. They were scouting the golf course where Donald Trump was. They were scouting ahead when they saw a man in the tree line, chased after him. Now, the reporting I'm hearing now, because it's been conflicting reporting since yesterday, obviously this happens when news is breaking, is that Secret Service fired on the man. The man did not fire on Secret Service, but he did have a semi-automatic rifle, body armor, and a backpack. It appears he was hiding along the tree line, waiting for Donald Trump, who was between 300 and 500 yards away. So Trump had quite a bit of distance. Police say there was quite a bit of terrain as well, with it being a golf course. Trump was not in danger. But this is a man now, it is being reported, is a Democrat, Biden and Harris supporter. He reportedly fought in Ukraine, and there's some very, very strange documents being posted. This man, on his Facebook, his social media has since been scrubbed, was not just a fighter for Ukraine, but apparently
this man posted on his Facebook days before shooting at Ukraine a letter he got from the Ukrainian military. It's crazy what's going on here. The CNN and MSNBC not going to get away with not posting all these documents because it's 2024. The documents is now flooding all over the internet. They can't scrub the internet quick enough because people are already releasing them. Like I told y'all, they was going to have to talk about his love for Zelensky and those neo-Nazis in Ukraine.
But apparently posted a contract for fighting, tried to recruit, had given multiple interviews over the past couple of years about recruiting for Ukraine, and the connections are rather worrying. Now, of course, I think there's a lot of people on the left and the corporate press are trying to play this up as he backed everybody. He had conflicting opinions. I think what we can see from this man is quite clear. This is once again a Democrat, an anti-Trump person who is trying to make an attempt on Donald Trump's life. Fortunately and thankfully, Donald Trump is safe. The Secret Service, I think they did a great job. There are a lot of people who are critical of the Secret Service right now, but they scouted ahead. They caught the guy before he can get anywhere near Trump. That's what they're supposed to do. And that's what they did.
Nah.
So we're going to go into this. We've got images, we got photos. And then in this story, I mean, this is absolutely crazy, my friends. The corporate press and Democrats.
Everybody in the Secret Service not in on it. You got some people in the Secret Service, they cut for Trump. Those the ones who spawned the hit. You got some people in the Secret Service who dropped Trump low. Come on, man. Trump not stupid. He playing it how it's supposed to go, thanking everybody, but he know goddamn well what happened. His people know what happened. That's why all this information, they not finna let the Democrats get away with this. They're not finna let the Democrats already trying to say the man, he said he backed Trump at one time. Please, the man a neo-Nazi who loved the Ukrainians, who hate Putin, hate black people, all that type of shit, man.
Democrats, with just after this shooting takes place, and this is the Secret Service firing on the would-be assassin who flees, it's my understanding. They're saying Trump must be stopped. They're saying it's Trump's fault. They're saying Trump's rhetoric, Trump needs to tone it down. The man was playing golf. Now, there are many questions, such as to what degree is there external involvement with this man who was a volunteer fighter for Ukraine, last known residence Hawaii, but for some reason was in Florida? How did he know where Trump was going to be? Some people are saying he's a CIA asset. I don't know, maybe. That stuff you can never really
He
prove,
is.
right?
He is.
But it is strange. All
Low
of it is
level
very,
one.
very strange. So we're going to go through all of this. We've got a bunch of other news. Chris Rufo has posted a video he says is they now have confirmed proof that migrants are, in fact, cooking cats. Now, the video is being challenged by the corporate press. They say that video is of chickens being cooked. So Chris Rufo rejects this, saying not only do they have video, they have eyewitness testimony. They have the testimony of the man who watched it happen. They have others saying they've heard the same stories. So you've got a lot of news coming out that seems to, I think, to the best of your ability, confirm the cooking and eating cats story. But it's really hard to know for sure. But Chris Rufo is contesting that. We'll talk about that. Plus, Taylor Swift's endorsement reportedly backfires, with one poll showing people are now less likely to vote for Kamala Harris after Taylor Swift endorsed her. You probably disagree with. There's a lot of debate that goes on, but there's great stuff. You can even call in to our fired on a suspect at one of Mr. Trump's golf clubs while he was on the course. The suspect is in custody. They say the latest is that the FBI is investigating what appears to be an attempted assassination of former President Donald J. Trump. Mr. Trump was on the course a few hundred yards away when Secret Service personnel spotted a person concealed in the bushes and opened fire. Law enforcement officials said at a briefing. The suspect fled the scene in a vehicle and was taken into custody during a traffic stop with a rifle with a scope recovered from the bushes, along with a camera and 2 backpacks.
Protect the president, bro. This how you split the fucking country. They are not. So this is just the warning to him. If he become president, nigga, he got a long 4 years, bro. This is real talk, nigga. This is real talk. He gonna have a long 4 motherfucking years. They warning him, bro.
It was not yet clear whether the suspect has fired any shots, according to Secret Service. Now, I can tell you right now, what we are hearing is that, and as of this morning, I believe this is from the sheriff, it was body armor indicating that he thought he may be under fire while making this attempt. He had a camera. He wanted this to be filmed.
Come on, man. This dude was not no suicidal maniac who planned to die. He planned to shoot Trump and get away. He got away, but he planned to kill him, get away. He didn't want to get hurt.
Give you the timeline of events for those that missed the story yesterday. So I also put up a quick live stream on this channel. I was at the mall, and saw the breaking news and pulled up a live stream immediately. The initial reporting was that where Trump was at this golf course, there was shots fired. No one knew exactly what had happened. Marjorie Taylor Greene had posted this may be an assassination attempt. We don't know.
Man,
shortly after
said he shot at Trump, and then the people returned fire. Then they said, no, he never shot. I don't believe that.
After that, it was the New York Post that reported these were 2 men uninvolved firing on each other.
Then they said it was a gang.
Shortly after that, we heard that there was a rifle recovered from the bushes. Information was coming in. But the news had gone out that this was not anything to do with Trump. Trump was fine. We're good. And then CNN comes out and says, actually, this was a Trump assassin. Now, the initial reporting was that the initial shots fired were intended for Trump. However, we're now learning the man never got any shots off. The Secret Service opened fire immediately. The man fled, but it appears he was prepared and waiting for Donald Trump to make his way to, I'm not sure what hole it was, 9 or something, where he was going to try and assassinate Donald Trump. He had, again, body armor, a camera. There's a lot of concern that with the FBI investigating this, we're not going to get a lot of information as to what really happened, who this guy is. The information that is coming out is shocking and terrifying. Serious questions about an individual who, according to Newsweek, fought in Ukraine. There's images of a Ukrainian war contract of some sort. What involvement does this man have with Ukraine? And I think it stands to reason the interests of Ukraine in not allowing Donald Trump to win. The Democrats want to pump money into Ukraine and give Ukraine whatever they need. In fact, Democrats and Trudeau and other Western leaders are advocating for Ukraine to use Western long-range weapons to strike Russian targets in Russia. Donald Trump says he wants to end the war and he wants to end the death. For those that, if you're the Ukrainian government, you have a vested interest in the Democrats winning because they want to provide funding and resources, and Donald Trump doesn't. That is a terrifying prospect. Ron DeSantis has stated the state of Florida will be conducting its own investigation regarding the attempted assassination at Trump International Golf Club. The people deserve the truth about the would-be assassin and how he was able to get within 500 yards of the former president and
Don't blow
current
up in their
GOP
face.
nominee
Right,
and
Queen
front
Salute.
runner. Well, I should say with recent polls, it's hard to know. Some models are saying that Donald Trump is losing. Nate Silver has Donald Trump favored to win, so we don't really know for sure. But a former president. Now, many people had been calling on Ron DeSantis to launch their own investigation as they believe the FBI will not properly do this. We're likely not going to get that out of Pennsylvania. But here's where things get crazy. Ryan Wesley Routh is the name of the would-be assassin suspect, went to Ukraine to join war. This terrifies me. Apparently, this man, I think we have the story from the Post-Millennial.
And these assassins and would-be assassins always have these three. They always tell you their whole name. It's Ryan Wesley Roth. They always do it like that. Like
had written a book. Let me see if
James Will's Booth. They do that type of shit. Put it right in your face.
If I can pull this up. He had written a book about how Ukraine must win an unwinnable war and advocated for killing Donald Trump. I've got a lot to show you. And it's worrisome from the corporate press and from Democrats that have continually pushed this inflamed rhetoric of Trump being a threat to democracy who must be stopped at all costs. Now, I can't speak for anybody else. I can tell you that I say it every day. Donald Trump should be secure, should be safe. They should redouble it. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, security should be doubled. They should be safe. I wish them the best. I just don't like their politics, and I think they're bad people. But that's okay. That's how this country's always been. We need better leadership. What we're hearing from Democrats is a bit more extreme than that. And now, don't get me wrong. There are certainly street-level Republican personalities and voters who have rhetoric that is untoward, I would say. I certainly think there's more on the left than there is on the right, but this is about the corporate press and elected Democrats saying Trump must be stopped. He's a threat to democracy. They compare him to Hitler. And you understand and that's the phrase they use, the stochastic terrorism, they call it. Take a look at this from the Post-Millennial. Quote, I am not going to read that quote. This is absolutely insane. Ryan Wesley Routh, however you pronounce it, the man under investigation for a second assassination attempt on Trump, wrote a book with his fiancée about how Ukraine must win the unwinnable war against Russia, in which he discussed Donald Trump being assassinated. The book was published last year. The Fatal Flaw in Democracy, World Abandonment. It's called Ukraine's Unwinnable War, The Fatal Flaw of Democracy, World Abandonment, and the Global Citizen Taiwan, Afghanistan, North Korea, and the End of Humanity. That's a mouthful. It was written by Routh and his fiancée, Kathleen Schaefer. This is where things get interesting. We'll jump to the Ukraine connection, but first, Daily Mail says, Ryan Routh's shocked neighbor claims everyone was afraid of him before Trump golf course assassination attempt. Take a look at this. You can see there, Routh has a Biden-Harris sticker on a white pickup truck sitting in the driveway of his Hawaii home.
Come on, man.
This is his house.
Huh? What did I tell y'all yesterday? When I showed y'all that picture of him, I say they didn't want to show you that picture because when you look at him, come on, man, damn hippie. I say he probably got a Biden wall sticker. He probably got the shit in his yard and right on schedule. That's why come on, man. That's why they wanted to hide it. They know exactly who this dude was.
Make no mistake. I mean, this guy's positions are very clear.
Come on, man.
I remember in the summer of love, during the George Floyd riots, a man ran up to a vehicle in Provo, Utah, and shot the driver for no reason. The driver was not at risk of hitting anybody. The driver was not speeding. The driver was pulling up to an intersection, was attempting to make a turn, and the rioters just ran up and shot this person. I think it might have been a woman. I'm not sure. It's been a long time. Why? I remember Aaron Danielson in I believe it was Portland. Was this Portland? He's walking down the street, and a far leftist with a communist tattoo on his neck walks up and puts two in his chest, killing him. We have seen many stories like this. And we keep hearing this both sidesism. Oh, January 6th was bad. Certainly. Yeah, January 6th was no good. It's a riot at the Capitol. The worst place for a riot, or one of the worst places for a riot. And there were a lot of injuries. Some Trump supporters lost their lives. The media just lies and acts like that's the apocalypse. Certainly it was bad. I mean, it's up there in terms of bad, don't get me wrong. But when we're looking at 30 plus deaths.
This is where they fuck up insurrection. And Trump do that too, man. Even though the police did incite in January 6th, like the police and the communists, Antifa and George Soros, they manipulated the George Floyd rallies and all that shit, and turned it into riots and loot and all that bullshit. They did that. But where these people fuck up, I'm getting so tired of conservatives. Get to trying to sugarcoat January 6th. These bastards tried to storm the Capitol. They was yelling, "Hang Mike Pence." That's the problem. See, all these motherfuckers is trying to overthrow the government and then blame the other side, And when they get to bring it up, oh, this woman was drug out of her truck and she was hit. Oh, man, do you know about the white supremacists went into the church and killed those black people, went into the dollar store, killed those black people? Stop the bullshit. That's what's wrong with these fucking conservatives, bro. They don't want to, they got blood on their hands. And they're trying to sugarcoat shit. That's what Trump fucked up in that debate. Quit sugarcoating January the 6th, insurrection. They said hang Mike Pence, he the vice president. They beating police. I was laughing like, man, people don't give a damn about the thin blue line. They beating police. It's on camera. Storming the Capitol. And then they were like, oh, but, it's so misunderstood. Oh, man, go on with the bullshit, man. That's what I'm telling you.
Deaths in the summer of love.
Stop the
when we're looking at the left directly targeting and trying to kill.
Let black people storm the Capitol talking about hang some goddamn body. You won't be so nice with them. So fucking stop trying to sugarcoat what happened on January the 6th. Yes, the FBI got in there and cranked them up. So fucking what? They done it to Black Lives Matter. You don't give a damn.
Kill people. When we're looking at this now, a Biden-Harris Democrat Ukraine supporter setting up to try and assassinate Donald Trump. I think it was the Hodge twins who said people need to realize that we're at war, and that terrifies me. I got to tell you, man, you will not want to live in that world. And there are a lot of people that you see on social media that are saying, yeah, right, I'm right. No, you're not. You're just not. It's one thing to live in the wilderness and think you can survive. Most people can't. Even the most trained, hardened man. Humans survive with each other. But on your own, I mean, maybe you can do it with others. I'm sure many conservatives are more attuned to survival on their own, homesteading and things like that. But I think a lot of people don't realize you combine that with active conflict, and it's not something we want to go anywhere near. Then a neighbor described the registered Democrat as unusual. It was not shocked to learn that guns were involved. Now take a look at this. Ruth's support for Ukraine. A suspect in custody, age 58, appears to have been motivated by frustration with U.S. policy on the war in Ukraine. That is to say, it's quite simple. They say CNN chief law enforcement intelligence analyst John Miller reported Sunday afternoon that Routh's social media accounts have focused on his self-proclaimed involvement in the war in Ukraine, including a supposed effort to recruit soldiers to fight in the conflict. Routh also claimed to have fought in Ukraine as it continues to hold off Russia's invasion. Routh appears to have previously spoken with the New York Times about his effort to recruit Afghan soldiers who fled the Taliban to fight in Ukraine. At the time of the report, which was published on March 25th, 2023, Routh told the Times, that he had spent several months in Ukraine in 2022. A Semaphore report published on March 10th, 2023, cited Ruth as the head of the International Volunteer Center in Ukraine, a private organization that works to empower volunteers and other nonprofit groups that work to enhance the distribution of humanitarian aid through Ukraine, according to the IVC website. I will stress this. Semaphore, they don't mess around. I cannot imagine Semaphore reporting that this guy had this position without doing any kind of verification. It seems this man absolutely was. Raheem Kassam on X writes, on May 4th, would-be Trump assassin Ryan Ruth posted this on his Facebook page, which appears to be from the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense. I asked ChatGPT to translate it. This is the document that was posted on social media. Now, most of this has been scrubbed. I don't read Ukrainian.
It's too late.
If this is a true and correct translation, I will clarify. This is going through ChatGPT, according to Rahim Kassam. It says the head of Ivanko Frankist Regional Territorial Center for Recruitment and Social Support. The command of military unit A7788 has reviewed the candidacy of Redacted, born in Redacted, for military service in military unit A7788 under the contract for the position of shooter. Storm Battalion of military unit. Then it goes on and lists the numbers. Military rank according to the staff, soldier, salary redacted. I request assistance in processing the documents of redacted and directing them for further military service. It seems to be correct. Newsweek is reporting this. Now, here's what I'm concerned about. The FBI taking over this investigation, I'm not confident we're going to get a true understanding. Florida investigating may be great, but I don't know to what degree.
When is CNN and MSNBC going to tell us about the would-be assassin posting on his Facebook this letter that he received from the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense? Huh? Did Zelensky send him on this hit? That's what we want to know.
Degree they can investigate foreign influence. Now, let me show you something that's going to piss off all of the deep state, the establishment, and I got it queued up. Always do. From Politico. Ukrainian efforts to sabotage Trump backfire. Take a look at this. From January 11th, 2017. Donald Trump wasn't the only presidential candidate whose campaign was boosted by officials from a former Soviet bloc country. Ukrainian government officials tried to help Hillary Clinton and undermine Trump by publicly questioning his fitness for office. They also disseminated documents implicating a top Trump aide in corruption and suggested they were instigating the matter, only to back away after the election. And they helped Clinton's allies research damaging information on Trump and his advisors, a Politico investigation found. Of course, the man in question, the Trump aide, was Paul Manafort, who actually was convicted. I believe he ended up getting convicted. It's been a long time, mind you. It's been 7 years since the story. Now, I just have to ask the obvious question. And I know they're going to attack me for it. I know they're going to claim that, whatever they want to claim. This man who fought, according to Newsweek, they say in the headline, went to Ukraine to join war. They're not saying, I guess, that he was definitively in the war, but with this paperwork, it stands to reason. This man was actively fighting for Ukraine. Semaphore says he was part of international recruitment efforts. I want to make sure we stress this. They say a Semaphore report said that he was the head of the International Volunteer Center in Ukraine, a private organization that works to empower volunteers, according to the website. I wonder to what degree Ukrainian interests may have directed this man. They're going to call me a conspiracy theorist. I'm not citing a conspiracy. I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying as part of any investigation, a man who went to Ukraine, worked with their volunteers, had discussed the assassination of Trump in the past, called for the winning of the war in Ukraine, a country that, according to Politico, had meddled in our election to stop Trump in the first place. You have all of these things lined up, and let me stress for you again. Politico claims, and I'll just say Politico claims, I don't know if they're telling the truth. Politico is a prominent news organization that Ukraine tried to stop Trump in 2017. It backfired. Today, we have a man who reportedly was involved in the Ukrainian war effort in Ukraine. There's a contract he posted, may or may not be real, don't know. And now he is a suspect in the second assassination attempt on Donald Trump. I think any reasonable person would say we need to investigate any ties to the Ukrainian government or war effort, because it's not just the Ukrainian government that wants this to happen. They want to repel Russia. It's obviously Ukraine does. And I do get it. Okay. I am no fan of Russia, their invasion. I think they lost the soft power battle. So they went to the extreme ends, which is wrong. They lose. Okay. But I have to question. We have to pursue this. They will not do it. They will not do it. There's a very real question. Is there some kind of Ukrainian involvement? Look, this guy, he's a grunt. He is an ideological wingnut. He's the suspect in this case. Okay, I want to make sure that's clear. Everybody's reporting his picture, his name, and I want to make sure it's clear. These are allegations, and he's a suspect. Maybe it was somebody else, who knows? Should this be the man, then I think it is completely reasonable to investigate Ukrainian direction, Ukrainian interest, direction, or involvement. Anybody who says otherwise is lying for political purposes. This man's motivations are clear. Now, again, maybe completely independent. He may be thinking he's got to go do it. He's going to go do all these things entirely on his own. However, I think it is fair to say there are questions about where he gets the resources for these weapons, where he gets the resources for body armor, how he knew where Donald Trump was going to be. It's been reported that this golf game was a last-minute decision.
All these weapons.
Doesn't matter either way. It doesn't matter because not like, I don't know that Donald Trump publishes his golf schedule well in advance, but more people might know. The question then becomes, if Donald Trump decided to play golf at the last minute and choosing this location in West Palm Beach, someone in the immediate tipped off this guy. Who and why? It's scary stuff, my friends.
Secret Service did it.
It's very scary stuff. Now, Andy No has a lot more information breaking down who this guy is, more photos of his advocacy for Ukraine. Andy No says, I found out Ruth was arrested in 2002 in Greensboro, NC, following an armed standoff at his roofing business. Very strange. A pro-Ukraine activist accused of almost assassinating Trump at his golf course was profiled in the New York Times in March 2023 for his efforts to recruit fighters to help Ukraine. They say
to recruit terrorists.
With Legion growth stalling, Ryan Ruth, a former construction worker in Greensboro, North Carolina, is seeking recruits from among Afghan soldiers who fled the Taliban. Ruth, who spent several months in Ukraine last year, said he planned to move them in some cases illegally from Pakistan and Iran into to Ukraine. He said dozens have expressed interest. We can probably purchase some passports through Pakistan since it's such a corrupt country. It's not clear whether he has succeeded. And so here we are. Ukraine brushes off links to wannabe Trump assassin. Politico reports. Volodymyr Zelensky said best wishes to the Republican candidate while the International Legion dismisses any connection with Ryan Wesley Ruth. They say last year, 58-year-old Ruth was told the New York Times, et cetera, et cetera. Ukraine's military wanted to make clear Monday morning had no association with him. American citizen Ryan Ruth has never served in the International Legion, has no relation to the unit. Rumors disseminated in certain media are not true. Now, here's a question for you. And this is a real question. Do you trust Ukraine or do you trust the New York Times and Semaphore? I am not being cute. I am not being hyperbolic. I am not being rhetorical. I'm asking you legitimately. When you look to who you decide to trust, that's the only direction we can go. Is this a fervent ideologue who privately went to Ukraine trying to fight, and the Ukrainian government says, we don't know who this guy is. We have nothing to do with him. Or are they disavowing now after this failed assassination attempt? And New York Times and Semaphore did their due diligence, and this man is who he claimed to be. I can't tell you. The media gets things wrong all the time. Ukraine might be saying, like, we got nothing to do with this guy. He's a wingnut. He's a crackpot. Anybody can say anything they want. Or it could be as simple as this guy was privately acting entirely of his own volition because he wanted to stop Donald Trump because he's nuts. Suspect allegations, okay, not definitive. And it could just be that Ukraine just doesn't want to have anything to do with him. Maybe he did fight, but he wasn't directed to do it. And they're like, disavow. This guy's crazy. First of all, his plan is stupid, insane, and morally reprehensible to the most extreme degree, obviously. The action could destabilize this country. Now, my friends, I bring you to the next level of things, I suppose, is the current state of how the corporate press is handling this story. Steve Cortez posts, sorry, Len, just hours after the second assassination attempt on President Trump, and CBS is using their 60-minute show to attack him as a threat to democracy over January 6th. No matter how you hate the corporate media, it's not enough. This is terrifying.
Stopped for about 6 hours. The vote was counted at 3:44 a.m. With 2 weeks until Inauguration Day, it was the Trump Justice Department that set the standards for the prosecutions. Decisions were made by career prosecutors.
We get the point. We don't need to go into all of that. We can move on. Here's a tweet from minority. I believe Hakeem Jeffries is the minority leader in the House, leader of the House Democrats. Extreme MAGA Republicans are the party of a national abortion ban in Trump's Project 2025. We must stop them. Now, my friends, I'm not going to sit here and be hypercritical of this tweet at all. I can tell you, I can be critical of it. Extreme MAGA Republicans, calm down. Trump's Project 2025, that's a lie. We must stop them. Well, you know, you do your best. But the timing, okay, this is the criticism. I have no problem with any Democrat or Republican saying, fight like hell. We got to fight. We're going to fight back, whatever it is. I have no problem with any Democrat or Republican saying, we got to stop the Democrats. We got to stop the Republicans. You're allowed to say those things. I am not going to sit here and say that Hakeem Jeffries is calling for murder or anything like that. I'm saying, bro, give it a few minutes. This was an hour after this story broke. Around 2:30 is when the reports were coming in. At least that's what I saw, that shots were fired near Donald Trump. Chill out. Inappropriate, okay? I know a lot of people are coming out and they're making it more like this is the rhetoric that's driving. Whoa. You're allowed to say these things, but bro, we have to be cognizant of the atmosphere. So my criticism of Hakeem Jeffries is not that he said this tweet, it's when he said it, okay? Just after this news breaks, we're all paying attention, waiting with bated breath. Everybody's trying to see what the story is. What are these shots that were fired? And Hakeem Jeffries goes, got to stop these guys. Hey, whoa. Some say it's probably a scheduled post. That's fine, but we have to be aware of what this stuff is. Now, it gets crazier. Maze Moore on X says, these clips are all from one show about an hour on MSNBC a few months ago. Watch until they end. They start talking about Hitler. They do this all day, every day. Then they tell Republicans to tone down the rhetoric.
It's that Donald Trump only cares about himself. This is a populist looking to serve his own interests and harm other people and dismantle our democracy and make it just about himself. This is a guy who's doing it on behalf of Putin.
Do you think Trump cares about any of his supporters?
I think he's only
on behalf of Putin. Did you hear that? So when you got a Ukrainian ideologue like this guy, a pro-Ukrainian, he's American. What do you think in his mind is going on?
never cared about himself.
He's still a greasy pig.
He's still a greasy pig.
He said that a hallmark of strongman leaders is they don't care about their followers. He loathes Donald Trump. Things like a lunatic and a criminal, someone corrupt who's bankrupted people. That the goal for all of us to save our republic has to be to keep Donald Trump far away, make sure he never gets anywhere near the Oval Office again.
The threat that Donald Trump is to this nation.
Cult of authoritarian personality in league with autocrats and kleptocrats and dictators all over the world. Everybody has to follow Donald Trump like a monarch. That's what the election is going to be about. Democracy and freedom versus dictatorship and authoritarianism.
We want to remain a democracy, but we want to take this hard turn into an autocracy and taking direct aim at our democracy. Autocratic leaning remarks he has made.
You get the point. I mean, this goes on for several minutes. I'll jump to the end.
We need extreme measures. I mean, it's just that simple. I mean, that's what Hitler himself explained. He part of the Hitlerian conspiracy for Americans getting rid of their democracy. And this stuff doesn't change. It's the same playbook. It's a disaster. We need extreme measures. I mean, it's just that simple.
Adam Kinzinger was just tweeting about Trump's speech. He said he'll be gone in a year. But what do you do about all the people that are now conditioned to have an appetite and hunger for a strong man?
Donald Trump was mulling whether our national abortion ban was going to be 15 weeks or 16
He's looking for a number he likes.
He likes
16 because
it sounds round. Some of the most fundamental decisions you will ever make in your life with massive relational consequences, massive consequences, intergenerational consequences for your family, huge economic consequences. The basic freedoms of your life should be decided by Donald Trump deciding which number he thinks looks prettier when it's embroidered on a hat.
That is absolutely insane. Now, I don't want to get into a whole abortion thing because we've got many more stories to go through. But to claim that Donald Trump is a Hitlerian dictator who will overthrow democracy and impose fascism because he's trying to find the amount of time it is acceptable to have an abortion, these people have lost their minds. Rachel Maddow's nuts. And I don't have any good answers for you, my friends. I really don't. What I can tell you is This policy, 15, 16 weeks, what she's saying, that's more time than Europe. Trump gave it to the states and says, basically, leave the federal government out of it. But this is the rhetoric that they push. There's more. Nick Sorter says, NBC's Lester Holt just blamed Trump for the attempt on his life. Let's play the clip. Let's play the clip. Is it a little hyperbolic? Let's play the clip.
Today's apparent assassination attempt comes amid increasingly fierce rhetoric on the campaign trail itself. Mr. Trump, his running mate J.D. Vance continue to make baseless claims about Haitian immigrants in Ohio. This weekend, there were new bomb threats in that town.
Wow.
Maggie Vespa is in Columbus, Ohio, with more.
Lester, simply put, Springfield, Ohio has been inundated by threats over the last several days, closing government buildings, schools, hospitals. Today, effectively closing a local university campus after administrators said someone threatened a mass shooting targeting Haitians. This in light of, officials say, a false online conspiracy theory alleging Haitian immigrants in that city are eating people's pets.
Today's apparent assassination.
This is amazing. Listen to this beginning again of this clip.
Assassination attempt comes amid increasingly fierce rhetoric on.
Now, it looks like a segue, but I don't think you should be doing it. It's not a segue you want to do. The assassination attempt on Trump comes after he was spreading conspiracies and leading to violence against migrants. It's like, whoa, guys, it's all wrong. People are allowed to have opinions. People are allowed to investigate stories. The corporate press, this is absolutely insane. Now take a look at this from Semaphore. Looping back, I should have brought this one up sooner. Semaphore reporting that this guy, Ryan Ruth, head of the International Volunteer Center in Ukraine, a private organization, they say, I have had partners meetings with Ukraine's Ministry of Defense every week and still have not been able to get them to agree to issue one single visa. Chief Trumpster tweets the shooter met with Ukraine Ministry of Defense. So he claims. I think it's important. We'd have a bit more to add to this. Max Blumenthal pointing out the book once again. They say, stating he's neither Democrat nor Republican, Ruth clearly articulated a mindset toward Russia mirrors that of Beltway hardliners. The guy had a Biden-Harris sticker on his truck at his house. So, look, I'm going to put it this way. I'm not a Democrat or Republican, but I'm voting Republican. We get that. I am a supporter of Donald Trump. I don't think Trump is perfect. I consider myself independent and moderate. I do not like the Republican Party, and I think often to the detriment of trying to be an online personality. There's much more money in just being a hardline supporter, left or right. I get people saying I'm a fence sitter and it's annoying. Just defend Trump, whatever, and I'm like, I care about what's true. I care about what's true. And what's true right now is that as an independent voter, as a moderate, as I've always been, independents are tracking with Republicans 2-1. Now, that being said, this guy says he's not a Democrat or Republican, but of course he's voting Democrat. He wants Ukraine to get funding. Of course he's supporting Kamala Harris. So he may be an independent, left or otherwise, but he's supporting the Democrats. He may not align with the Democratic Party as a fervent supporter. I don't know if we have Daily Mail says how Donald Trump's casual Sunday golf session was minutes away from becoming a disaster. We have this map, actually. So Trump was at hole 5, and they say the suspect escaped the scene in a black Nissan. So it was around hole 6. This is the Trump golf course. Man. Also, I could never golf. I mean, look at this. Jeez. Now, mini golf, I'm pretty good. Pretty good. I always win when we go mini golfing, but I ain't going to be doing any real golfing. That's for sure. And then, of course, Donald Trump's response, his statement, I would like to thank everyone for your concern and well wishes. It was certainly an interesting day. Most importantly, I want to thank the U.S. Secret Service, Sheriff Rick Bradshaw and his Office of Brave and Dedicated Patriots, and all of law enforcement for the incredible job done today at Trump International in keeping me, as the 45th president of the United States and the Republican nominee in the upcoming presidential election, safe. The job done was absolutely outstanding. I am very proud to be an American. We're going to have more updates on this as the day continues. So smash that like button right now if you're watching live. Subscribe to this show. We do the show live Monday through Thursday at 10 a.m. And you can become a member at timcast.com to support our work. We can't do this without you. I really do mean that. We rely on your memberships to basically run everything that we're doing here. And we really do appreciate your support in making all of this possible. So we're going to have
Hello, everyone. Breaking news. JLR investigates. Come on in. Come on in. Having some technical difficulties on the last chat. I know people were waiting in the chat. Let's talk. Let's talk, folks. Ruth. We're going to talk about this guy right here. We're going to get Magnolia in the chat. The would-be Trump assassin arrested, Palm Beach County, Florida. I am boots on the ground covering another shooting, another mass shooting, or, shooting a shooter who is wanted on the loose. But this broke last night, and we actually were the very first people on YouTube again to put this guy's information out on YouTube. That's how we do. We like to break the news on JLR Investigates and give you guys the scoop and the updates on what's going on in real time. So this is Ryan Ruth. We incorrectly, however, said on previous lives, Routh, R-O-U-T-H, because I figured it might have been Routh before they actually started saying his name, in the media and everything like that, because it looks like mouth, like Routh, R-O-U-T-H. But the news is saying Ruth. So I'm going to go with Ruth, Mr. Ruth, right? Ryan Wesley Ruth, 58 years old. Ruth from Greensboro, North Carolina. Extensive criminal history, folks. This guy's criminal history is so long. I'm just shocked to the core. One was able to possess a weapon, and two, how come this guy has never served an ounce of jail time or prison time that I see? It seems like he's been getting a slapped on the wrist for many, many years. Very disturbing new information has been coming out about this guy. Me and Magnolia have been doing an extensive deep dive on this guy, and he has traveled overseas. Very concerning with his travels overseas. As some of you might or might not know, he went over to Ukraine and was advocating for people around the world to bear arms and join the Ukrainians in the fight against Russia, which is very interesting. At the time, same time, soliciting money, soliciting weaponry, and things like that, technical stuff to be able to, do this. Somehow, in the course of that, he worked his way back to the United States of America, and then worked his way down to Palm Beach. Now, the question there's a lot of questions. How in the world did he know that Donald Trump was golfing at his golf course? Because it wasn't a scheduled golfing thing that he was doing. He wasn't scheduled to do it for that day. So how in the world did he know to park, I guess, somewhere outside the facility there, outside the golf course, and go over there? And are we talking, around the fifth hole-ish, and poke his gun through the fence, AK-47 backpack? How did he know to do this? So it makes me wonder, is there some sort of connection with him with international terrorism, or some sort of organization, or even the government? And I will maybe even go as far to say Ukraine, but that's for you to decide. What we do know, though, is he's been arrested. He's going to have to have a court appearance, right? Everyone in America's, due process, and they see the judge. But here's the thing, folks. It is believed, because the state attorney went on News Nation last night and talked to Brian Enton from News Nation. It is believed, folks, that the feds are taking over this case. So this is now going to probably be a federal indictment. Now, federal indictments, no cameras in the courtroom, a lot of times secretive. A lot of high-profile federal cases, they take your phone from you. You can't even bring your phone in the courtroom. There's quite possible that we might never really see much about this guy ever again, besides the court documents that would be posted on Pacer. They might seal it. They might seal the case, might seal details. They might whisk this guy away to a federal prison that we'll never even know about. ADX, Florence, Colorado, with the other would-be terrorists. He'll be treated maybe similar like a terrorist. But does he have a defense, though? Does this guy have a defense? Because he technically didn't pull the trigger, right, of the gun, even though he's there with a gun, in order to say, hey, in fact, he was going to try to, take out the former president of the United States. There has to be some sort of literature or something to back that thought, right? Or can they just use the gun himself standing there in the bushes as probable cause to say, hey, we're going to charge you with some serious charge? We don't know what he's charged with yet. Attempted murder. I mean, yeah, attempted murder, possibly, but do they have attempted murder statutes on the federal level? I'm thinking possibly terrorism, but we'll see when this indictment or criminal complaint comes out on the federal government, brings out. Maybe he wasn't even allowed to possess a weapon. But I'm going to bring Magnolia in the chat. People have a lot of speculations about this guy. People have been talking about this guy. We've been just digging all night. Now, I'm already doing another case, so I don't have my computer and my systems and everything like that. But we were able to dig up some nuggets on this guy. And I'm going to bring Magnolia in the chat, and she'll talk a little bit about, the organizations that this guy was involved with in the past. Apparently from Hawaii, his son has a name, Oran, O-R-A-N, has spoke out. But what in the world is going on here? Are we talking about also, folks, was he tipped off? Was he tipped off? Is there someone in the inside of the Secret Service or Trump's golf course that tipped this guy off on where Trump's going to be? Because the only people that really know where Trump's going to be, folks, is the Secret Service, right? The Secret Service, but they have a responsibility to protect and keep these candidates safe, screen the areas, look at the areas, look for vulnerabilities before that potential candidate steps out and does things, right? And we were always dumbfounded how after this Trump rally, I don't know about you, but after this failed assassination attempt on July 13th, I'm wondering why in the world is Trump still doing rallies when we still don't even have answers on what happened July 13th. And then at the same time, somebody takes your life, and then you're just going around like, well, they got the guy that did it, killed him, Thomas Matthew Crooks, but I'll just go golfing out in the open anyway, in Palm Beach County. So it's strange. On his own golf course, that's really not fortified like Fort Knox, all like that. There's neighborhoods around where his golf course is. As a matter of fact, they were saying some neighborhood is something to call to something in reference to guns. But people can get up access and get up close to that golf course all around. So, Secret Service took a shot at him. He escaped. He was going down, I don't know what road it was, the main road there. And then they pulled him over and arrested him. And that was when he put up his hands and everything like that. Some people in the chat are saying you can't live in fear. I understand that, but these political candidates are on a whole other level. Us, yes, we can't live in fear. We should always go out and be vigilant and don't let terrorism and mass shootings and everything like that really disrupt your way of life. Life goes on. You just have to be extra vigilant. But these people have targets. Unless you have enemies out there that don't specifically like you. And if that is, it's maybe something you did wrong. But when it comes to these political candidates, it's a whole other level. And there's, people that specifically, want to take people out. It's scary. It's scary. But two now since July, what is it? August, September, in 2 months, 2 months. I remember we were just covering the Trump assassin up there in Butler, Pennsylvania, Bethel Park, Thomas Crooks. And then, after that, there has been numerous people that have been arrested for threatening Trump. We covered that wackadoodle out there in Arizona. Remember the Arizona while Trump was at the border. Here's another Secret Service failure, folks, that I feel. Trump was supposed to go to Cochise County, Arizona. Remember Cochise? He was going to speak on the border at Cochise, right? And when he was at the border of Cochise, before he went there, it was already alerts were out about a specific wackadoodle out there that was going to do harm to him and threatening to do harm if he comes into town. Remember the gay bar? He was going to be at the 80s gay bar. He was going to go there and meet and go to the border wall down there and get Trump or whatever like that. So Trump speaks at the border wall, and then after the fact, media lets him know what's going on. He wasn't even aware or told what was going on. So you had that blunder. You got some people outside his rally in North Carolina with guns. And then now you have another incident. How many more incidents are going to happen where they're putting this guy in danger? Whether you support Trump or not, whether you support Kamala Harris or not, whatever like that, these candidates need to be protected because it's our country is so divided right now, and so just, you know, and everyone is like taking their anger out on these political candidates, you know, that you know, we'll call it Kamala derangement syndrome, Trump derangement syndrome. These people that just watch this TV and they see and they just get so hateful, and they're like, I'm going to do something about it. It's because read these indictments that have been going down just in the last couple of years of people just making threats towards these candidates. If you ever have a chance, look at the statutes that charge people for making threats towards the president or the former president or whatnot, and read the specifics in their indictment and stuff like that. They're whack jobs. They'll watch something on news and stuff like that, and they'll pick up their phones and start calling the FBI office or calling the candidate's staff or trying to get a hold of one of the candidates and start rambling on their, you know, on their phone and saying they're going to do this or the other, or start sending emails out. It's really scary stuff. It's really, really scary stuff. So we're going to get Magnolia in the chat. And we're going to talk about more about this dude right here. This guy's interesting, to say the least. To me, you know, what I want to think is, well, he's trying to set up GoFundMe's and trying to get money. He lived in Hawaii. He has a house in Hawaii. Living in a house in Hawaii, it's pretty expensive. Anyone that lives in Hawaii is it's pretty expensive. So he has to have some money. He has to be financed some way. You know, recruiting a bunch of people in Ukraine to fight for the Ukraine war. And you know, he's emphasized in the past that he's trying to get a hold of the Department of Defense in Ukraine, the defense. Now, I don't know if they consider him a wackadoodle or what. Maybe he has zero ties whatsoever to the Ukrainians. Maybe the Ukrainian government denounced him, whatever like that. But it's weird. It's strange. It's bizarre that a guy that was over there in Ukraine and going around advocating for people to fight in Ukraine comes back to the United States of America and is down there at Trump's golf course with an AK-47. It's almost like he went overseas and got some sort of secret training or worked with some sort of rogue government or foreign government, and they assigned him a plot. Now, I'm only speculating, but it's like these things that just doesn't make sense here. It just doesn't. And then scamming the Afghan people. Yes. Yeah, that too. I heard that too. You know, so we don't know how much money this guy has. We don't know how much money he has. We don't know how well financially connected. If not, he might not have a lot, but they gave him enough to try to do this. Unless he wasn't even trying to do this. Unless this is all blown out of proportion and his defense comes out and says, well, you know, he was just toting a gun or whatever. He just wanted to talk to somebody or whatever like that. But he had a gun, but he wasn't going to use the gun. You know, I don't know. I don't know what type of defense you have with this, and we don't know what type of charges, and we don't know what he said yet to authorities, you know, upon that interrogation of getting caught. I mean, he fled the scene. So why would you flee, you know, flee the scene? His son lied too. His son, somebody said his son has a crazy rap sheet. Yes, his son has a crazy rap sheet. He has a crazy rap sheet, almost 200 different charges in the past. Let's get Magnolia in the chat so we can talk. Magnolia's been digging. You should see our Telegram chat. We use Telegram, and it's lit with all types of stuff on this guy. Hello, Magnolia.
Hello. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. All right, let's talk about Mr. Ruth.
Yeah.
All right, so doing your digging and digging around and finding, you know, his international connections and stuff. What sticks out to you, Magnolia, about this guy?
Yeah, so the story that's coming out is that it's sort of what we talked about last night. I kind of had indications that some of the stuff he claimed he was doing over in Ukraine was, a lot of it was more kind of delusional type stuff. So the stories are coming out now about Ukraine is essentially distancing from him or attempting to distance from him. And they're saying that he just had a lot of delusional ideas about fighting in Ukraine. So the Telegraph came out with some information. They're saying that he was rejected by Ukraine. So a former International Legion official told the Telegraph that the attempted Trump shooter, was full of hot air. And they're saying that he was trying to get involved with recruitment, but really he was only interfering. He was called out a number of times by Legion people and told to stop his shenanigans, but that didn't seem to stop him. He was mostly quite eccentric. I could smell a mile away that he was full of SHIT.
So what, like, did he get kicked out of the country or something like that at that point? Like, or like maybe he felt slighted and he just left because he was, you know, nobody wanted.
Hold on a second.
Oh, I don't know where Magnolia went.
There was someone at the door.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so they're just saying, you know, he's completely nuts, that he really wasn't involved. He wanted to be involved. The International Legion for the Defense of Ukraine said in a statement that Ruth had never been part of, associated with, or linked to the organization in any capacity. So let's see. He was never completely stable. He arrived in Ukraine very shortly after the war began, when the country was in chaos and it was easy for people to make false claims that they were acting in some official capacity. While he probably had good intentions, he allegedly caused the Legion security problems by posting details on his website of foreigners who had enlisted. He was trying to get involved on internal matters as well. So basically, what they're saying is that he was just a nut, and apparently there's a lot of people like this that get these ideas in their head and they go over there and they say that they're going to help fight the war and recruit people and all these things, but they're really not doing anything except being a nuisance.
Let me ask you something, or ask everyone in the chat. Is it illegal for an American citizen to go over to another country and then help recruit other people to fight in that other country's wars? Is that even legal for an American to do? Yeah, like, unless you denounce your citizenship. And you know what I'm saying is, I mean, can like, for instance, if I said, okay, I'm gonna go over, okay, I'm an American, just say, I'm not saying I would do that, I'm just saying I'm gonna go over there and I'm an American. JLR investigates. I'm an American citizen, American, you know, live in Florida residence, and I'm gonna go over to Russia. I'm gonna go over to Russia right now, and I'm gonna go in Russia, and I'm gonna go downtown Moscow right now, and I'm going to recruit people to fight for Russia against Ukraine. I mean, don't you think I'd probably be indicted for some sort of charge or something in the United States for that? I mean, to me, it almost aligns with treason.
Yeah, it's hard though, because there's a lot of these organizations that are worldwide. You know, the war industry is very profitable because there's so many ways that people can get their foot into that industry, and these organizations are just one of the ways. And it seems to attract a lot of people who are just overly obsessed. And they even, one of the aid workers who knew him spoke to the Telegraph, or told the BBC. This guy's name is Chris Lutz. He's a humanitarian aid worker in Kiev. He told the BBC that Ruth was known locally as a recruitment cheerleader, but he had no rights or powers to recruit for Ukraine's International Legion. He was hyper-focused, trying his best to help Ukraine, but it was getting to an unhealthy level. And remember, we talked about last night, he was trying to bring Afghans to Ukraine to fight. He was taking volunteers from Afghan fighters, and even told the New York Times last year that he could use Pakistan to get visas for them illegally because Pakistan is corrupt. That's what he told the New York Times about a year ago. So it's interesting. I know you mentioned before that it seems like he must have money, but I don't know. I don't know if that's really true or not, just because unless he's gained money during these efforts in Ukraine, because remember at the very beginning, there was a GoFundMe for him to
that was set up
to scrape up money, and the GoFundMe, the fiance set it up for him to go to Ukraine and set up his volunteer center, and they were asking, I think the GoFundMe was asking for like $2,000, and it did not reach that level, so it was like, I don't know, $1,300 or something that he raised through this GoFundMe. But that's really no money. And his whole plan was, when he went over there, was he was going to be staying in hostels. And hostels are where you stay when you don't have a lot of money to spend. You know, so he wasn't over there staying in hotels or anything like that. Now, I do know when you get involved with things like this in other countries, there are programs that, you know, provide aid, and they give you a place to stay in exchange for certain things. I used to know a guy, interestingly enough, he was also a left-wing nut job, kind of similar to this guy. And he would go to different countries and teach English. It's called ESL programs, English Second Language programs. And he would go over there just to different countries, and he would have his room and board and everything covered in exchange for him teaching these classes. But he didn't make any money doing it. In fact, he drained his own 401k to support this over time because he just didn't have money to keep it up. So it's almost like I kind of see that this guy is kind of doing that same thing. Now, it's possible that he went over there and he ended up getting connected with some nefarious organizations that were paying him or helping him in some kind of way. And we wonder about the connections that he actually did make when he was over there. It sounds like the stuff he was trying to do with recruiting fighters was a bust. It really wasn't going the way he thought it was going to go, but that doesn't mean he didn't meet other people while he was there who may have tried to use him to do evil things, like try to kill Trump. So those are the questions that investigators have. Is, you know, specifically the main question is, how did he even know to go there on that day and that time? Because Trump's golf outing yesterday, they said, was not publicly known. And it was actually a last minute decision for him to go golf at that particular place yesterday. So, you know, that really shrinks the circle of who knew he would be there.
He's just got to be at the right place at the right time.
Right. So it's like either he was super, super lucky and just happened to go when Trump was there, or he did surveillance to watch and wait for him to come, or he had inside information. So those are really the only three options. And the most likely of those is that he had inside information.
Well, that's scary. That means there's someone within Trump's inner circle, or someone within Trump's Secret Service, or someone working on Trump's payroll at the golf course to inform him of what's going on. But that, I mean, why inform him though? If that's true, like, why him? Who is this guy? I mean, as we just described, it just seems like he's a lunatic and just he's the
perfect patsy, the perfect weirdo, the perfect guy who they was ready to whack after but he didn't take the shot. He didn't do what he was supposed to do, you know. But it's all unfolded all over the news. Every news station talking about his ties to Ukraine, but they trying to clean it up. You know, to seem like, oh, he just was a wacko who just misunderstood bullshit.
I mean, a guy that I don't feel like has connections, unless he really does have connections.
Yeah.
You know, with him, here's another thing, folks. You know, this guy here, how in the world was he able even to get to Ukraine with a criminal record that is a mile long? I thought other countries you're not even allowed to even enter if you have certain criminal records. Is he a felon? Is he a felon?
This dude had over
I'm not sure.
100 charges. 100.
But remember, we went through a lot of the charges in North Carolina, but he also has charges in Hawaii. And I saw in one of the Daily Mail articles, they said that he has a record of over 100 counts of various crimes, including the one we talked about last night, where he was arrested after barricading himself with a, quote, weapon of mass destruction, which turned out to be a fully automatic machine gun. So it's very disturbing things that he's gotten in trouble for over the years. I thought it was very weird. His son, we did a video on this last night. His son spoke out and was like, oh, you know, my dad would never do anything like that. He's only ever had speeding tickets in his life. And I'm like, do you even know this man at all? Like, I feel like the son doesn't even know his dad, which he did say that they've been estranged for a few years, but
That's how
he also made a comment that he hates Trump like any reasonable person does.
Yeah, what's up with that?
And that makes me wonder about the son too, and his mental health, because no reasonable person hates someone that they don't even know. You know what I mean? Hate is not a reasonable thing. So to say something like, well, all reasonable people hate Trump or something like that, like, no, reasonable people don't hate people. That's a very strange statement to make. So I'd be wondering about him too, to be honest. But it does seem like he really must not have known his dad at all, unless he's just completely lying. But if he's got an extensive criminal history, it's certainly a far cry from a few speeding tickets. I mean, it's just crazy that his son would say something like that, unless he just legitimately does not know this man.
Well, I'm thinking about his criminal history and the way he was able to possess an AK-47, particularly with a charge of a prior gun charge, makes me wonder, you know, he probably avoided prison in the past because his defense attorneys probably used the mental illness card, right? So there's probably, I could say that there's probably some sort of documented history where this guy has been committed in somewhere, you know, in some sort of hospital or something like that, or mental health treatment. If for all those charges and for him to avoid prison, there has to be a mental health element where, you know, alternative, he's seeking inpatient or even outpatient mental health treatment, whatever like that, you know. And then with that,
for this day,
you know how that is, then how over the years was he able to obtain an AK-47? Where did he get the weapon? And the guy's 58 years old.
That out in the investigation, like, where did he buy it? How did he come to have that weapon?
I mean, but here's the thing, folks, and let me ask you something seriously. If there's no evidence, if he didn't make any statements saying that his intent with the being there was a gun to do harm to Trump, if he makes no statements, no ramblings, no posts saying that he was going to do violence or whatever, and he's just there with a gun, can he be charged with attempted assassination of Trump just for being there with a gun?
Him and his wife already came out with a book, and in the book they talk about the assassination of Donald Trump. He already wrote in his book that came out a year or so ago about Trump being assassinated. They could say, hey, that was fictional because Trump ain't been assassinated, but still you was trying to act on that, what you wrote in your book.
And I'm asking that because, I mean, I know everyone has been jumping on this saying failed to test. I mean, and Secret Service allegedly seeing the gun through a hole. But what about if he's, you know, speaks and doesn't say anything? I mean, you gotta have evidence that he was trying to do that in general, right? You think?
Yeah.
It could just
remember the Secret Service say they seen him sticking his rifle through the fence, and that's when they reacted.
This could just turn out into some sort of, you know, a bunch of federal crimes. I don't know. But the Fed said they're picking it up, right? That's what that's what the state attorney of Florida said, right? In that area.
Yeah, Ron DeSantis also made a post last night. He said that the state of Florida will be conducting its own investigation regarding the attempted assassination. The people deserve the truth about how the would-be assassin was able to get within 500 yards of the former president. So it sounds like the Florida will still investigate this as well, but the state attorney last night told Brian Ensign that they, as far as the actual charges, criminal charges, that's going to be under the jurisdiction of the feds.
Yeah, but why? I mean, knowing that what, you know, people, there is quite a few people that have disdain towards the federal government and don't trust the federal government, don't trust the Secret Service. You know, the state of Florida has the guy. Why turn this guy immediately over to the feds? Why don't the state keep him and dig deep into him? I mean, he's on Florida property.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Trump's golf course is technically federal property.
Yeah.
I mean, pick them up and you know, have the state do their investigation before you just instantly just hand them over to the federal government, where we might never get answers. And that's how I kind of started the segment. I said, dude, it would remind me like of an El Chapo or any type of the underwear bomber, Richard Reed or Eric Rudolph, or all these domestic terrorists that got the Blind Sheikh, all of them, Kaczynski, all those guys at ADX that do these horrendous crimes on federal level. You know, a lot of that, we never really understand the truth because the federal government whisks them through the process. The federal process, the conviction rate for them is 100%, and they go away and they go to a federal prison, in ADX, Florence, Colorado, and you never see them again. Or hear from them again. And this might be into this guy too, in this situation. Might never even know nothing about it. And we don't get any key details. We don't get nothing. Federal indictments
not gonna get nothing.
Somewhat vague.
Ukraine, his ties.
I mean, they're good, but they're somewhat vague.
Mediation for the Democrats. They're not feeling.
Well, they said as far as statements, they said that
trying to kill our president on behalf of Ukraine.
He didn't display like any emotions or anything like that. And they said that he was relatively calm and he never even asked why he was being detained.
OG. All that goofy nonsense, that's just a disguise.
What happened was they saw the rifle barrel stick through the bushes through that fence, and they started firing into him, and he ran to his vehicle and raced away, but he was spotted by a witness that took a picture of his car. He had a black Nissan, and the witness was able to get a picture of
him. If it wasn't for that witness, we'd never know who did this. If it wasn't for that witness foiled the whole plot against Trump, because they was going to say, oh, we just seen a guy sticking a rifle. He got away. The witness took a picture, and no, he didn't get away. I got a picture of him. Then they was able to put out the all points bulletin on the guy. The guy absolutely thought he was finna get away, but the witness fucked it all up.
The license plate, and then they caught him about 40 minutes later, and the same witness was able to identify him. So, yeah, but they said that when he was detained, he didn't really make any statements. He didn't say anything. He was calm, and we saw the picture of him sitting in the cop car. He just looks like he's having a wonderful day. I mean, the look on his face, he's got this like weird, pleasant smile on his face, sitting in the back of the cop car.
I mean, he's shaven and his hair is not dyed.
Because he actually played his part. To him, he did what he was supposed to do. That it's a threat. It's shake. Trump shook because they're getting closer and closer. Like I told you, they never had this many assassination attempts on the president. They usually decades apart, So he did his part. He did what he's been getting paid to do. He helped put pressure on Trump. Trump got to think about this stuff now, but he's not going to change ending the Ukraine war.
I don't know why somebody in there at his age would dye his hair different colors, but I mean.
Well, he dyed his hair for Ukraine. He dyed half of it blue and half of it yellow. So hair that you see in some of the pictures, that's why it has that dual tone. Like one side is one tone and the other side is another tone. It's washed out over time, but that's why his hair looks like that. The links that he's gone to for Ukraine is just really wild.
So
there's more. There's a lot more people from Ukraine speaking out about this guy. To the Guardian, and CNN even spoke to somebody, and they just all seem to be saying that he was just completely delusional. His ideas were unrealistic. Remember we saw that he said in one of his posts, or actually it was in an interview, he said that he had people contacting the Ukraine Defense Ministry on a weekly basis to try to get these visas approved for his Afghan fighters to come over, and they never approved a single one of them. So this one representative from Ukraine's Foreign Legion said that Ruth contacted them online multiple times, offering large numbers of recruits from different countries, but it was obvious his offers were not realistic. So, and they said that they never even answered him back. Yeah, it's almost like the picture being painted is almost like he's this groupie for Ukraine, like just completely obsessed, completely brainwashed with this ideology, and it was like he was obsessed with going to Ukraine and obsessed with fighting in Ukraine, but he couldn't fight because he was too old. So his plan B, what he said on an interview, was to find other people to recruit to fight instead.
He fought, but the intelligence agencies pulled him to the side and told him they got a bigger job for him. You see, he can do more than he could ever do in Ukraine if he go back to America and complete this little task for them.
But it just seems like it was just all like pipe dreams. Like it wasn't realistic. The things he wanted to do couldn't be done, or they didn't want any part of it. So, he's just always hanging around.
Yeah, I mean, there's videos of him out on the streets handing out pamphlets. It's like almost like recruitment pamphlets. That's the way I saw it, right? I mean, for American to be so entrenched into advocating about the war in Ukraine, it had to start here in America for him to be able to say, hey, I'm going to go over to Ukraine. But, you know, there was an issue back like in 2001 era, you know, the 9/11 era, there was Americans that, I'm not saying that what I'm saying is like, I mean, you said that he couldn't fight himself because he was too old. But there was times where Americans were trying to go over there to fight with the Taliban.
Fighting in Ukraine, so we know that's not true.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and what I mean is, it's like, it seems like this guy's like, while he's in America, somehow got obsessed with Ukraine and said, I'm going to go over there and be a part of this cause.
Yeah.
Without renouncing his American citizenship and just going over there.
Yeah, and there's lots of people that do that. I mean, there's a lot of people. I remember during Syria, there were a lot of these men who would kind of organize, group up together, and go over to Syria to fight on whichever side. You know, there's different sides in these wars, but you know, they're not in the military. They're not specifically army trained necessarily. They want to go and help fight. And, you know, a lot of times, I don't know if people are really familiar with this whole, it's a whole rabbit hole. But, I mean, if you just look into it, you can find, you know, there's plenty of documentaries about these types of people who join these groups and go over and fight in wars for countries that they don't even have anything to do with. It happens all the time. And you know, a lot of the times you really have to just wonder, like, what's going on with them mentally when they're deciding to do this. Do they feel that they just have nothing here in America? You know, maybe this guy, he's estranged from his son. He is obsessed with Ukraine, and maybe he thinks that his only hope to make a difference in the world and save democracy is if he goes to Ukraine. And that type of thinking, I mean, people can really get wrapped up in that type of thinking. It's almost like any other obsession you have. That's why I brought up the word groupie. It's like someone who's obsessed with a celebrity. It's really, the mindset is similar, you know, like these people who become obsessed with like Jennifer Aniston or whatever, and they go to Hollywood and they constantly go to her house and try to talk to her and think they know her and things like that. It's very similar, except this is probably on another level because this is war we're talking about. He's willingly, knowingly trying to get involved in a war. And he kept saying on Twitter that he wanted to die for Ukraine. It's like, Ukraine is not your country. What are you talking about? Your country is America. You know? So you just have to wonder how they get so far down the rabbit hole. But then again, it's this political rhetoric that we're constantly hearing. We have to save democracy. Democracy is at stake. If we don't win the war in Ukraine, we will lose democracy forever. And there's a lot of these big, you know, power players in Washington that lead the charge on this. Not necessarily like, you know, the president and vice president, they've talked about Ukraine plenty of times, but I'm talking about the State Department. So you really have to look at the State Department, who has direct links to Ukraine, and they are more or less leading these efforts. And so there's people from the State Department. You have to wonder, did they ever come across him? Alexander Vindman's name is being thrown around all over the place because he's infamously known as the one who caused one of the impeachments against Trump when he talked about this phone call that Trump had made to Ukraine where he was asking about Hunter Biden and things like that. That led to this impeachment, and that was started by Alexander Vindman. And then yesterday, his wife was posting, you know, very inappropriate remarks on Twitter about this attempted shooting, mocking it, making light of it. Alexander Vindman was coming out. He's very angry. So those types of people, who will do anything to protect the interests of Ukraine and the war effort in Ukraine. You know, Vindman is pushing for even more weapons, even more funding, things like that. These people in our government or on the fringes of our government really push for these things. And it's not a stretch to think that they could use someone like Ryan Ruth to pull something off, because he's unstable. By all accounts, we're hearing that he's just like living in a fantasy world. He's delusional. He's obsessed with Ukraine. Well, he got obsessed with Ukraine. Something got him obsessed with Ukraine. He didn't just wake up one day and was obsessed with Ukraine. You know, that had to take time to develop an obsession like that. So, and he's physically there. So you have to wonder, who did he come in contact with, and how in the world was he able to get access to this information about exactly where Trump would be?
Yeah, it's scary. I appreciate the support in the chat. I saw some people leave comments, and appreciate that coming through. So we'll continue to monitor this guy here and find out what the motive here was. You know, I have a feeling he probably said something. He probably said, I just wanted to go talk to Trump or something, like in that type of thing. Like, you know, I wanted to share, you know, he made a post previously and said that he voted for Trump in 2016. Like, he said he supported Trump, but he's also a registered Democrat. And he's actually called out other politicians. I mean, he had a Twitter account, and he was talking about tagging Kamala Harris, tagging Biden, leaving his phone number. I just don't feel like at this point, I don't know if I could say, even though he's a registered Democrat, to say like I don't know. It's weird. I guess he would be a Democrat because, the Democrats seem like they're more in support of Ukraine, but that's a whole other argument. But I don't know. I don't know. Like, to me, I feel like he's similar to like a Thomas Crooks and just doesn't like all politicians and feels like all of them.
No,
that's the way I take it, because I feel like he was publicly calling out Biden and Kamala.
When?
On Twitter before they took it down. Like, some of his posts where he's tagging them and saying, I hope you do what Trump doesn't do, and this, that, what I mean?
He wasn't, and that's why I didn't bring those up, because those are easily misinterpreted. He was not calling them out. He was using their name. He was saying that he was specifically referring, the post you're talking about, he was specifically referring to the shooting in Butler, Pennsylvania. And he told Biden and Harris, he said, you should reach out to the victims of the Butler, the guy who was killed, Corey Coppertory. You should reach out to the victims of this, because Trump will never do anything for these people. He was calling out Trump, not Biden and Harris.
Yeah, but Biden and Harris, it seems like, didn't reach out to these families.
Well, of course they didn't. But in his mind, he clearly believes that Trump would never do anything for these people, and yet Biden and Harris would, which just again shows how delusional he is. Another thing, he said that he thought Trump was the right pick in 2016, but he quickly turned on Trump. And, by the time 2020 rolled around, I mean, he was fully, even before that, he turned on Trump pretty soon. And Daily Mail reported that he donated 19 times between September 2019 and March 2020. So like a 6-month span of time, he donated 19 separate times.
Was
to
that Act Blue?
Democrat? Yeah, through Act Blue.
Told
Interesting.
You.
Yeah,
Told you we waiting on them. We're waiting on that to come out. Now it's out. He's been donating to the Democrats. Hate Trump. Love Zelensky and the Ukrainian neo-Nazis. Hate Putin. Come on, man. This is their baby. They created this Frankenstein.
All the Act Blue. I didn't know the validity, because some people were also posting other Act Blues out there confusing him with another Ruth, like actually spelled Ruth.
Yeah, I saw that. That was a voter registration card, I think, that people were sending around, but it wasn't him. So he's also supported candidates' donations for Andrew Yang, Tom Steyer, and Elizabeth Warren.
Whoa.
And he was constantly saying things like democracy is on the ballot, which is, I hear people say that, and I hear
that's
these
a Democratic
campaigns
talking
saying
point.
things like
Democracy
that.
on the ballot.
And I just wish that they wouldn't do that, because
hey man, we need to get this man
look
immunity,
at what's
man.
happening.
We need to get this young man immunity, man. He need to come on forward, tell us all he know, and then we need to give him immunity. Because I'm pretty sure he got a lot. They probably already doing that. But they're going to give him immunity to shut up and don't say nothing. They will never release what he know and who he was working with behind the scenes. Why? Because it's a threat to national security. They don't have to. If it will hurt the political process or endanger any political party or make any political party look untrustworthy, that's a threat to national security, and they'll never release it. That's why they don't talk about the JFK. Who did what to JFK? Threat to national security.
You're basically radicalizing these people. It really seems like this guy believes that if Trump is elected in November, democracy itself will end. Like, that's the way he thinks. And I think it's very concerning, because I see people like him all the time on social media. I mean, they're just running loose all over the place. The same type of stuff that he's saying, like democracy is on the line.
Yep, that's all the Democrats say, especially the Congressional Black Caucus. Since the elitists told the Congressional Black Caucus to say that, that's all they tell black people now. Democracy is on the line. Trump is a fascist. He's a threat to your voters' rights. That all that bullshit. They definitely trying to crank up black. He's a racist, bigot, and a bastard. You know, instead of trying to get us to do it, they want us to be the ones to do this type of nonsense.
Democracy is at stake, and if you know, the Ukraine war means democracy is at stake for America. I mean, these are catchy things to say in a campaign, but it just is not reality at all. So when you get someone believing that as reality, who knows what can happen?
Because if he was Hitler and democracy was really on the line, then you're supposed to take action. And that's what's so fucked up. They're lying to these people and trapping these people into these violent actions that if what they saying was true, well, you're supposed to try to take out Hitler, right? Somebody gonna say, dang, I gotta stop Hitler. They know what they're doing.
You know, hopefully the law enforcement is scouring through his social media to find out if he's in communications with others, like they said they were going to do with crooks. Do you think we'll ever get an FBI press conference or a Secret Service type press conferences? I know authorities spoke. Yesterday, was that Secret Service or was that the Palm Beach County officials?
Yeah, I think they did. There were a couple. There was one with the Florida, I think the sheriff's office did one, and then the Secret Service spoke after that. So, you know, they're saying that they're going to investigate all these questions about how he came to know that Trump would be there at that specific time. That's, I think, the main question. And then also another big question is, how did he plan this out of state? Because he was living in Hawaii. He moved to Hawaii, I guess, sometime in the 2010s, but he's from North Carolina. So that's another question, is like, where was he physically leading up to this, and how did he specifically plan it? So those are all the questions that they'll have. They'll have to look into all that, figure it out. And I don't know if he'll make any statements. I guess not. You're probably right. It's probably one of those situations where they take him away and we'll never see him again. Unless
he debriefs with the federal government. And he could do that, a 5K 1.1. He could talk for possible reduced sentence. If others are involved, you know, if he's part of some sort of
it's gonna be easy to get this dude to debrief because he thought he was doing the right thing. This isn't a guy who thought he was committing a crime. This is a guy who thought he was trying to save democracy, trying to help Kamala and Joe Biden and the Democrats, trying to help Ukraine, trying to stop Putin. That's what they told him to do. You think he's gonna say it wasn't him? Are you crazy? He can't get his glory. Why think he was gonna GoPro this? He want his glory. They're gonna tell him to shut up. They gonna silence him and promise him a sweet little cushy deal, little time in a mental health facility, you know, couple of years, pat on the wrist, not to beat his chest and say he was doing this on behalf of the democracy and to stop Putin and to stop Trump.
If he's in Discord or certain, you know, whatever apps and platforms that people use, and sometimes in communications, I just feel like this guy, based off this guy, you know, hugging, there's lots of photos of this guy with soldiers, literally like with soldiers. Like, it's very scary. Like, I feel like he has a network of people here.
Yeah, he definitely is a well-known figure in these circles because...
But you're soldiers in camouflage and everything like that, you know, like...
Yeah, all these organizations are aware of him. And so, you know, he went over there, it was...
Man was in the mix.
I think April 2022, so that's been a few years now. And he's been aggressively, you know, working on his dream of getting these volunteers. Now, we haven't even touched on the Taiwan stuff.
What's going on with Taiwan? Listen.
That's like a whole other
And here's the well, let me just stress to the viewers here, we are JLR and Magnolia Investigates. We're just investigating as this goes on to find out, who is this guy? What's this guy about? Who's he affiliated with? We don't know all the answers here. We're just trying to put it together here and try to figure this out. Preliminary, within the first, this happened just less than 24 hours ago. So we're just, based off, the organizations he's involved. We don't know the answers here, but we're figuring this out. We're investigating.
Yeah, so there's another thing that he was involved with, that's Taiwan, and it's essentially very similar to his efforts with Ukraine. So there's a Taiwan Foreign Legion. He has a website where he says International Volunteer Center Coordinator Ryan Ruth, and he on this website he has an application that you can fill out if you want to become part of the Taiwan Foreign Legion, to basically become a fighter. So it's saying we are recruiting former military and civilians from around the world that are willing to travel to Taiwan and join together on the shore in defense of basic freedom, human rights, and to show the world does not accept aggression and hostility. It just goes on and on. It says, by signing up here, you can show your support for Taiwan. In solidarity, you can speak loudly to China and Xi Jinping and let them know the world will not sit by. So it's a whole application. You scroll down and, you're filling out this application. So this is another one of his endeavors, Taiwan.
Do you think he's been to Taiwan? Is there any photos or videos of him in Taiwan?
I don't know yet, but it's similar. It's like he's trying to do a similar thing there as he was doing in Ukraine. And there's all sorts of videos of him in Ukraine talking about, there's like one video where he's trying to recruit someone, but the guy doesn't want to sign paperwork to do it. And Ryan gets kind of annoyed with him and is like, well, if you're not serious, then go away. And, so there's these videos of him trying to recruit people. There's a video that he was in that was, I guess, some sort of campaign type video for the ASSASSINATION Battalion in Ukraine. And some people are saying that that video was produced by BlackRock. Now, I don't know if that's true, but that, just to let you know, just to give you a heads up.
Wow.
That's what you're going to be seeing a lot of today.
Connections to BlackRock.
Yeah, there's a specific video that is promoting the ASSASSINATION Battalion in Ukraine, and some people are saying that this was a BlackRock video. So that's part of what people are kind of going down the rabbit hole about today.
Now, okay, he in a video with ASSASSINATION Battalion, and they're saying it's a BlackRock produced commercial and advertising trying to recruit soldiers. Let's not forget the first assassin who tried to kill Trump, who was killed, he was in a BlackRock video promoting education and things of that nature.
So, folks, according to American law, I guess Americans can basically travel overseas and getting involved with the recruitment of militaries to fight for other nations and everything like that, and then you can just come back to the country. Why? Question is, did the feds actually know about this guy before?
Yeah.
Like you would think if someone was going to go over do that, involved with raising money for weapons and raising money and recruitment of people to fight in foreign wars, you would think the minute he lands back on American soil, the FBI would be waiting for him on the tarmac and whisking him away for an extensive interrogation, about what he was doing.
Yeah.
I mean, how many others are there out there?
Green-eyed lady said that Ruth was also trying to recruit Afghans as peacekeeping forces in Haiti. So peacekeeping forces. So that's a whole other prong.
Wow.
Ain't no
the war
peacekeeping.
industry. That's like a whole
Mercenaries.
other thing.
Pillaging and plundering.
That's where you get into like nation building, which in Ukraine, you know, there's going to be a lot of money, and there already has been a lot of money going to Ukraine to help rebuild after the war. And that's kind of the process of war itself. You know, they go in, they tear up a country, and then, you know, they send in money and different organizations to help rebuild. And then you get your construction contracts, your public services contracts, like all these different things that come with building a nation. So that's like a whole other avenue. And maybe he was trying to branch out into different avenues of the war industry by trying to do these peacekeeping things, because they do that. One of the main ones in the United States is the United States Institute of Peace. There's also, USAID, United States Aid in Development, I think it stands for. So United States Institute of Peace specifically, they send these peacekeeping groups into different parts of the world that are going through war, or that have what they do is, like in Syria, for example, when the fighting dies down in one particular geographical area, what they'll do is they'll send in these peacekeepers to basically serve as mediators between the two sides and to try to keep them from reigniting the fight. And it's very serious work, and it's dangerous work. And a lot of those people with the Institute of Peace have been killed by doing that work. So it's not something to be taken lightly. And, you know, if you're going to be involved in something like that, you really need to be trained properly. You need to know what you're doing. This stuff is dangerous. And this guy just going to Ukraine saying, I'm going to fight and I'm going to die. I mean, it's just ridiculous. This is crazy talk.
Unbelievable. So he'll go through the court process. He's not going to get bail. He's not getting out. I think he's never going to get out again. Somehow they'll trump up so much charges on him that they'll keep him behind bars forever. But how many others are there out there? What else is going through this guy's mind? What else are we going to uncover in the next day or two? Probably be shocking to the court. Wouldn't be surprised if Congress puts Secret Service back out on the hot.
Well, this morning, we're starting to get a clearer picture of the suspect in the apparent assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. The 58-year-old suspect is in custody, and he was spotted pointing an AK-47 style rifle from the edge of the Florida golf course where the former president was golfing Sunday, and was later captured by police. The suspect in this case also happens to be familiar to our Holly Williams, who joined us live from London. Holly, good morning.
Morning in London to the news that Ryan Ruth was the suspect in an alleged assassination attempt on former President Trump. I immediately recognized the name because I had been in touch with Ryan Ruth for over a year in the early stages of the war in Ukraine. Like thousands of other international volunteers, he apparently went to Ukraine to help. I don't believe that he was fighting himself, but he had put up signs in Kyiv, Ukraine's capital, offering to help other foreigners find places in Ukrainian battalions. And that's how I initially came across him. I spoke with him, I think.
All these nice, sweet, hippie pictures that they posted, but we just seen the other pictures of him with all of those soldiers. No, don't show us these pictures with him holding up cards like he just was protesting. Show us the pictures with him with the different soldiers in Ukraine, man. See, this is called propaganda.
Once on the phone and texted frequently, and he put me in touch with several foreign fighters. Now, he seemed very genuine and passionate about supporting Ukraine. He mentioned plans to bring in thousands of Afghan and Syrian fighters, which I took, frankly, with a grain of salt. In an interview with the news website Semaphore, he claimed he'd been unable to get visas for Afghan fighters, but we don't know if he was actually in touch with any Ukrainian officials at all. Now, I've met American volunteers everywhere from Syria to Ukraine. Some are experienced soldiers and clear about the dangers they're facing, but others seem less well informed and their motivations can be quite confused. To be honest, Ryan Ruth did at times seem fairly naive. At one point, he sent me an audio track of a song he'd apparently recorded about the carnage caused by the war in Ukraine. In November of last year, he told me he was back in the US, in Hawaii, and that was the last time I heard from him. Anne-Marie.
Wow, Holly, fascinating. Thank you very much.
You got to come in for further questioning, ma'am. You're trying to deny him. Why is she in touch with a dude for over a year who she feel like is a nut job? Why would you be talking to him for so long, man? You know why, man. You part of the conspiracy too. They definitely need to look into your background. Okay, let's see how CNN decided they were going to cover that. Because everybody know, the whole world know this man been in Ukraine. So, they got to try to put out some propaganda.
Has been talking to his sources at the FBI and is learning that as we speak, Anderson, the investigation is now going global. What authorities are trying to do is try to understand a little bit more about this man who ended up on that near that golf course, 58-year-old Ryan Wesley Routh. According to Josh's sources, authorities are working to obtain search warrants on various social media accounts believed to be associated with him. Some of these images that you're looking at to your screen here, these are images that our investigative unit has been able to cull from his various social media accounts that are available online. The suspected online activity is also involving some of these platforms that are located outside of the United States. And what the FBI is also aware of are some of his online claims about foreign travel. And I want to zero in on something here, Anderson. The pictures that you're seeing come from a GoFundMe account. And on that account, Routh claims that he went to Kyiv in 2022. He was raising money to try to support his travel that appears to be completely done on his own. On that GoFundMe website site, he is encouraging others to join him. It is unofficial. He claims that he is staying with people aligned with the military, that he's donating military devices to some of the fighters in Ukraine. And our team
he's donating military devices to some of the people in Ukraine. They're not going to ask us, how did he do that? He have over 100 charges. How the hell he get military devices and he got over 100 charges in America? Who the hell gave him military devices? You see, they're trying to make him seem like some guy he just like to take pictures and collect souvenirs. He was no real threat.
Team is also gathering a little more of a background about where he comes from in the United States. We believe, according to public records searches, that he was splitting time between Hawaii and North Carolina, that in Hawaii, he was a self-employed affordable housing builder. He started in 2018 a company called Camp Box Honolulu, building some of those storage units and tiny houses, and that he had donated a structure to some homeless people. In North Carolina, though, we are getting through some of the federal campaign finance records, a donation of $100, more than $100 to Act Blue, which processes donations to Democratic campaigns. He had registered as an unaffiliated voter, that is without a party affiliation in 2012, but he had voted in the March 2024 Democratic primary. And it also shows, according to North Carolina public records, that he had a number of brushes with the law. In 2002, he had a weapon. He had been pulled over by police, and that he barricaded himself in a building. That is something that police did
recently confirmed after his arrest on Sunday, and that he had a number of according to public records, Anderson, that he had issues with the courts and failing to pay taxes. Anderson.
Kyung-ah, thanks very much. More now on the breaking news. Tomorrow, the acting Secret Service director heads to Florida. Ronald Rowe got to the top job after the director resigned in July in a hail of criticism, you may remember, after the first assassination attempt on Trump in Pennsylvania. Back now with our panel, Julia Kayyem, Daniel Brunner, and Jonathan Wackrow. Daniel, it's interesting to see those pictures of this guy. I guess those were taken early on in Ukraine. As somebody who was in Ukraine for a couple of weeks at the start of the war in Lviv, you would see a whole bunch of folks coming there from the U.S. Some of them, had legit military training in the U.S. and were there believing in the cause and wanting to help and volunteer where they could or train others. And then you'd also see just some folks who kind of washed ashore there with, running from something or just seeing this as some kind of opportunity to jumpstart their life. And so I'm curious to learn more about what this person was actually doing. Was he one of those people who just kind of got attracted to that and went? Did he actually have, was he actually, contributing in some way? There's certainly still a lot we don't know about this person.
There's a lot that's going to be looked at. The digital evidence that this individual left behind is clearly tremendous. We're going to be looking at all the CCTV, all his social media, and they're going to be looking back a number of years because obviously he's had an extensive social media presence going back to before the war in Ukraine. So they're going to be looking all the way back before that. They're going to look at what his motivations were for going to Ukraine. And then was he affected in Ukraine? Did that motivation come to the United States? And then as a processing during the course of the investigation, that'll all be analyzed, that'll all be looked at, and to look for other mitigating factors that could have sent this individual down that road to prepare for this attack, and understanding what the motivation was going on as far back as pre-war Ukraine.
And Julia, the fact that he had, allegedly had a GoPro that he was going to be using to document either if he was pulling the trigger or, showing downrange what happened when he pulled the trigger. That indicates certainly a desire to broadcast, whether in real time or later, what was going to be done.
Right, that's exactly right. So we've seen it in mass shooting cases. We've seen them in terrorism cases. The performative nature of the violence, and so it's not enough just to kill or assassinate a former president. It is you've got to document it, and we don't know if he wanted to live stream it. We don't know what he was intending to do with it, but we can, I think, rationally deduce that part of it was the amplification of the violence itself. He lived very online. He was very vocal. We see all of these pictures, and so that is something that suggests to me that this was
Why are you not talking about? He was fighting for democracy. Democracy was on the line. He had to stop Putin. He had to help Zelensky. Why you not? He lived online. Why y'all not talking about he was fighting for democracy? They don't want to say what he say because it's going to sound just like what they've been saying over and over and over on TV.
Planned out over time, and we just don't know what sort of triggered it in the last couple of weeks or months.
And Jonathan, if this was a last minute, schedule, put it on the schedule, go play golf, that also raises questions about, how he knew about it.
No, it actually does raise questions again. But when we start looking at this individual,
they know. See, they know they busted. They know nobody can believe that man just happened to pop up at this location and finna stick his rifle somewhere on this big ass golf course and near Donald Trump. Oh, get the hell out of here, man! Yeah, who told that man what Trump was gonna be? Huh? Is it some 3-letter agency who done it?
It is not normal for someone to wake up and decide I'm going to go shoot the former president, right? The investigators right now are looking at
He didn't wake up and decide that because this man wrote a book last year, him and his wife, talking about the assassination of Donald Trump. So I know y'all know that about the book, but y'all not mentioning it.
Pathway to violence, his grievances, his violent ideations, his pre-attack planning, all of this will come out through the investigation, to include how did he know that the president was going to be there on that day?
Oh, that's going to be national security, so they can't talk to y'all about that. You know, they tell y'all how he knew that, then that might mess up y'all faith in the U.S. government. So for national security reasons, they're not going to tell y'all how he found out where Trump was at.
Special Agent and Navy SEAL Jonathan Gilliam. Jonathan, I have been to this area. It's not like a normal golf course that you drive by in your daily travels and you can see the players playing from the road. The entire course is blocked by greenery if you're on a public road. So how did this guy know that he would have a line of sight to the president?
Because I believe he did surveillance. I believe he had somebody telling him or some way to find out what Trump's movement was. When you look at this map right here that you were just talking about, it is surrounded by roads that go right around it. And you step off the road onto the sidewalk and straight into the trees, and there's a fence right there. He picked a location, had time to set up, tie up, and fix ballistic plates to the fence, along with a supply bag, a GoPro, and set himself up for the shot. That takes, I mean, if he just ran up there and did it, it would take at least 5 minutes to do that. But he also staged his vehicle so he could get away. So all that occurred in the perimeter, in a location where Trump was going to be. And just like in Pennsylvania, it was not discovered. The perimeter was not secured. And this individual was able to go, simply just get out of his car and walk over there. Now, whether or not he staged it earlier, we don't know. But the reality is he was able to set up a shooter's hide and prepare himself for the shot and let the president get within max effective range of that SKS, which is a Russian AK-47. And he could have, if that Secret Service had not have seen him and the president got a little bit closer, he could have taken the president out yesterday.
Yeah, and Jonathan, how do you feel about, what are your thoughts on the suspected gunman? He even spoke to the New York Times recently, and apparently he was on this personal mission to form an army of his own to defend Ukraine, and he even traveled to Kyiv to do just that. And the Washington Post is also reporting that he wrote a book last year, and he alluded to the fact that he supported Donald Trump in one of the elections, but regrets it. And there's even one line in this apparent book. He says, "You are free to assassinate Trump as well as me for that error in judgment." So what are your thoughts on the potential political motivation here behind all of this?
You know, I think the left, and I say this with all sincerity, I believe the left is a national security threat to this country. I mean, you look at everything that they do, whether it is destroying the children's minds in the education system with this gender grooming, whether it's killing the southern border and allowing whoever wants to come over and get handouts from the government, propping up and promoting violence against conservatives. Let's just look in the past few years. The Congressional baseball game where Scalise was shot, that individual was a leftist, Bernie Sanders supporter, shot a congressman with the same type of rifle, an SKS. I find that strange. You have the shooter in Pennsylvania. We don't know what his politics were because we haven't found anything from the FBI, that we haven't been told anything. He was able to use an AR-15 and get within 130 yards of the president, former president. And then we have this individual using the same type of gun as the individual who shot up the Congressional baseball game, gets within 400 yards. So, and all of these individuals, as far as we can tell, at least two of them are far left individuals. Many of the school shooters that have killed numerous children in schools have been transgender, which means they've been confused by the left's grooming policies in schools. There is a major issue here that everybody is missing because they're trying to be politically correct, and that is the fact that the left is a national security threat, that these types of actions that are being taken are not just being taken because this guy doesn't like Trump. It's the basis in which he doesn't like Trump, because Trump didn't support some of his ideals, which are leftist ideals. And that seems to be a reoccurring issue, along with, from an investigative standpoint, these perimeters that are never secured. And it's local law enforcement's fault, and it's also the Secret Service's fault. But these individuals are being allowed to get within max effective range of the weapons that they choose. And that alone is suspicious to me. And it is unbelievable that that can happen to Trump, who's already been shot once, let alone anybody else that the Secret Service is protecting. It's just something needs to change when it comes to securing the perimeters, or else my suspicion is going to continue to go sky high, which it is right now.
And Jonathan, my main concern going forward, one of them, I'm pretty worried that a foreign actor along the lines of what you were saying is going to see how close these two presumably lone individuals got to the president of the United States and say, hey, if we flood the zone with 2, 3, or 4 foreign actors, they could succeed in the mission to take him out. And that is a chilling and terrifying thought, Jonathan.
Yeah, so thank God the Secret Service. Jonathan, really quickly, we got to wrap it up here, but go ahead. Final thought to you.
Yeah, just one thing. If enough people who support Trump and support freedom in this country, they could have gone out and surrounded that golf course themselves. We could do that, either being hired to do that, or just going out and saying, you know what, we're going to get a group of people together and we're going to walk around where he's at on the outside perimeter. And you would have done a better job because you would have probably spotted this person. I can't understand why law enforcement isn't doing this. And if Trump wants to hire myself or other people like me, I'm not just saying that to get a plug, but there's people out there that can just do perimeter security, and we would stop on all of these issues.
Yeah, well, thank God that Secret Service agent on the advance team spotted the gun poking out of that chain link fence. But you are right. The question remains how it even got to that point is a terrifying prospect. Jonathan Gilliam, a Fox News alert. House lawmakers are demanding answers from the Secret Service on the potential security failures that led to shots being fired just a few hundred yards away from the former president. The chair and ranking member of the Trump Assassination Attempt Task Force releasing this statement. The task force is monitoring this attempted assassination of former President Trump in West Palm Beach this afternoon. We have requested a briefing with the U.S. Secret Service about what happened and how security responded. We are thankful that the former president was not harmed, but remain deeply concerned about political violence and condemn it in all of its forms. The task force will share updates as we learn more.
Florida Congressman Greg Steube joins us now. Congressman, what answers are you demanding of Secret Service and, quite frankly, the entire apparatus that is charged with protecting President Trump?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of questions that Congress has asked, and I don't think the task force has even been given answers on the last shooting that happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. The names of every single Secret Service agent that was on the ground that day. What is very interesting is the Trump team has repeatedly asked Secretary Mayorkas for more Secret Service agents to protect President Trump and had been refused until the Butler shooting multiple different times. Why is that? Why does the Secretary of Homeland Security not want to provide security to the former president, the leading nominee for the Republican presidential race here in November? Why doesn't he want to give them the assets that his own team is requesting? It's hard not to believe that this isn't an effort to give him lower levels of security. The Palm Beach sheriff even said that had he been the president, they would have had that entire golf course shut down. So why are we not treating him like he's the president? Because there's already been multiple threats at his life, multiple attempts at his life. It's very frustrating as a member of Congress, one, to not get answers from the Secret Service, and two, the agency that's supposed to be deemed the only job to protect our former and current presidents, and they're not doing it appropriately.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on the way Secret Service handled this situation? I mean, thank God there was that one agent who spotted the muzzle of the gun in the chain link fence, but there are questions about why it got to that level to begin with.
Yeah, how did the guy get there knowing that the president was going to be there? Why wasn't that area locked down? It's just like the Butler shooting. How did an individual climb up on a roof with a firearm where people around were saying, hey, there's a guy over there with a gun climbing up on the roof? How was he laying up there for like 20 minutes or something before he took a shot? You can't tell me that the snipers that day didn't have a bead or a view on him before he took a shot. Why wasn't he taken out before he was able even to get on the roof? There's so many questions that I have as a former military guy, and looking at tactics and the situation there and Butler, and then the last shooting, that the Secret Service is just refusing to provide answers. You saw when she was before Congress, she refused to provide answers and ended up resigning after I filed an impeachment resolution against her. It's very frustrating to not get answers from an agency that we oversee.
And to the point, it's important to point out again that when you drive by this course, it's not like you can look in and see the golfers playing. There's greenery that is blocking anybody from the road to seeing inside the course. So obviously, this individual had to have some level of planning involved. Do you blame, Congressman, the constant drumbeat from the left that Trump is a threat to democracy for yesterday's attempt and yet another attempt on his life?
100%. After January 6th, Nancy Pelosi called all of us Republican members of Congress domestic terrorists. Those words are impactful to people that are looking to do harm to people. So we've been called domestic terrorists. They're repeated calls that Trump is a threat to democracy, which is actually the left. I mean, Kamala Harris hasn't had a single person vote for her for president, and she's the nominee. I mean, if there's not a more threat to democracy, it's that she was picked behind closed doors in a Democratic convention, and then she's the person that they put out with not a single person voting for her. Yeah. But the rhetoric from the left every single day that Trump is a threat to democracy and a threat to our country, it drove this guy to do what he did. Facebook's already taken down his Facebook page that even said that Trump was a threat to democracy.
Yeah, and after this happened and Donald Trump got whisked away inside after shots rang out, apparently he was in good spirits and joking and saying it was unfortunate that it happened at the fifth hole because he had a birdie putt and was doing pretty well. So I think his attitude among all of this, the drama and potential life-threatening situation should be noted as well. Congressman, we have to leave it there. Thank you.
President Trump is safe after a second attempt on his life yesterday, this time happening at the Trump International Golf Course in West Palm Beach, Florida. Police say the suspect is this man, Ryan Wesley Routh, pictured moments after his arrest. Police describing him as detached when he was brought into custody. An AK-47 rifle pictured here, seen by Secret Service agents as the barrel poked through a chain-linked fence. Sheriff's deputies also seized a GoPro camera nearby, along with a backpack. Trump was on his fifth hole when the suspect was spotted. Secret Service opened fire on him shortly after. Authorities say Routh was anywhere between 300 and 500 yards away from the former president.
In the bushes where this guy was is a AK-47 style rifle with a scope, two backpacks which were hung on the fence that had ceramic tile in them, and a GoPro, which he was going to take pictures of. So those are being processed right now.
Rifle was pointed out, our agents engaged. We are not sure right now if the individual was able to take a shot at our agents, but for sure our agents were able to engage with the subject.
The suspect fled in his car, but he was quickly spotted on the highway after a witness saw it and snapped a photo of the license plate. Routh was then stopped and arrested. Here's what we know about him. He is originally from North Carolina. He moved to Hawaii in 2017. He's been arrested in the past for drug possession, driving without a license, expired inspection, and operating a car without insurance. In 2002, he barricaded himself inside his roofing company's office during a 3-hour standoff with police following a traffic stop.
President Trump praised law enforcement yesterday for removing him from danger, saying, quote, I want to thank the U.S. Secret Service, Sheriff Rick Bradshaw, and his office of brave and dedicated patriots, and all of law enforcement for the incredible job done today at Trump International in keeping me safe. Joining me now, former New York City Police Lieutenant Darren Porcher and retired New Jersey Police Lieutenant Steve Rogers. Thanks very much, gentlemen, for joining me this morning. Darren Porcher, kick us off. Your reaction.
I think this is a troubling narrative, to say the least. The Secret Service is acting in a reactive capacity as opposed to a proactive capacity. If you don't pay attention to history, it will rear its ugly head. When we see what happened in Butler, it was clear that the resources were not in place to support the protections of the former president. As a result, an assassin took a shot, and luckily he's still alive. Fast forward to this recent event, the same thing happened. Although the intended assassin did not get a shot off at the former president, it still begs the question as to why was he able to get so close? 200 yards away is very close for an assassin with a scope on their rifle. I'm a former military officer. I know that you can kill someone from a distance like that. So it begs the question as to why did the Secret Service not have the necessary fortifications in play to ensure that our former president was safe? And there's a lot of questions that Congress will have to answer.
That is all
they'll have to answer
on.
the Congress.
That's right. Steve Rogers, why is it the case that we see a second time now that an assassin has been able to get so close to President Trump?
Well, to begin with, I thank God for the Secret Service agent who engaged the shooter and the other law enforcement officers. But I totally agree with my colleague, Darren. Look, I just saw what you rolled with regard to the sheriff defending the Secret Service, explaining that they did their job. Well, they did not. I was appalled when I heard that. The fact of the matter is that the Secret Service failed again. Now, look, common sense tells you, Maria, that we just had an attempted assassination in Butler, Pennsylvania, on the former president. So that security should have been beefed up. I don't buy the argument that, well, if he was the president, we'd have more agents. It would have been a simple task, Maria, to get canine dogs out there and just go along that perimeter of that fence. And then we would not have been talking about this morning.
Well, that's right. And the task force from the Butler shooting was supposed to report more details this week. But Liz Peek, here we are sitting here in a 3-month period. We've got 2 attempts on President Trump's life, clearly unprecedented.
Yeah, good morning, Maria. And what's really disturbing is that the social media posts by this fellow who has given money to Democrat causes in recent years sound very much like what you're hearing from Democrat politicians, that Trump is a threat to democracy. So I don't think this is happening in a void. I think this is absolutely purposeful, that Democrats have made this man public enemy #1, and there is really a target on his back, Maria.
Yeah, this is spot on, Liz. And in fact, this came up at the debate last week. President Trump pointed out all of this negative rhetoric and said this is putting his life in danger. Watch this.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy.
Darren and Steve, weigh in here about this rhetoric. To what extent do you see this rhetoric on the left triggering people like these shooters?
This is the time to dial down the rhetoric. I mean, we are a great nation. We're the greatest nation on the face of this earth. And as President Trump mentioned, this is not a banana republic. We shouldn't experience assassination attempts on our leaders or our potential leaders. This is not Venezuela. We are much better than that. And it just pains me to see that the narrative continues and there's been no correction in sight from the perspective of the Secret Service or even the radical statements that are made on the opposition. And now is the time to put this behind us and focus on this election and not have interference to ensure that we have the appropriate candidate that's elected as the president of the United States.
Steve Rogers, yeah, what about that? The Federalist writes this morning: Democrats did the opposite of, quote, lower the temperature between Trump assassination attempts. The Federalist writes, when an assassin first attempted to take Trump's life at the Butler, Pennsylvania rally in July, Democrats and the media everywhere overlooked their roles in stoking the flames of hatred, Steve.
I believe that 100%. Look, Darren and I have been police officers a long time, and we know there are a lot of people walking the streets on the edge. All they need is a reason, an excuse. And unfortunately, we have a lot of people in Congress, Democrats in particular in this case, who have a lot of influence. And it takes just their words, just something they said to cause an attempted assassination on President Trump. These individuals that are increasing their rhetoric are allowing these others to go out and pull the trigger. And that's got to stop. They better reassess themselves, and they better be able to come together and understand that this is not a Democrat or Republican problem. This is now an American problem. And the American people have to put a stop to this, because I don't believe they will. If we put a stop to it come November.
Okay, we will keep following this and have the latest information.
Meanwhile, House Speaker Mike Johnson posting this photo from Mar-a-Lago yesterday, where he visited with Donald Trump right after the second assassination attempt at his golf course nearby. Speaker Johnson joins us now to react. Mr. Speaker, did you think maybe your meeting was going to be canceled when you heard about the shooting? And what demeanor how would you describe the president when you got to him?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me. My wife, Kelly, and I were on the way to Mar-a-Lago when the shooting occurred. And so we were delayed a little bit because they shut down all the traffic. But then we arrived there about the time that President Trump did. We spent about 3 hours with him. He was in very good spirits, as you might expect. That's who he is. He's so resilient. And we were really grateful to see him. You know, I said this, and we'll all be talking about this for quite some time. There's no leader in the history of America that has been so attacked and has remained so strong and so resilient. He's one of a kind. He is not going to stop fighting for the American people. And it was really encouraging for us to sit and visit with him right after that happened.
Mr. Speaker, I know your faith is very important to you. And after the first assassination attempt, what was it, 65 days ago? Donald Trump said it was providential, that he happened to turn his head at the right moment and look at that board, which normally he plays at the end of his rallies. But he said he felt like God was with him during that. Was he mentioning anything like that? I mean, this is the second time someone has tried to take his life. That has to be pretty jarring.
It is. It's a remarkable thing. And Kelly and I spoke with him at great length about that, because it is something that no one can deny. God has spared his life twice now. And I told him that it reminded me of the bulletproof George Washington, our first president, who evaded being shot when he was an Army colonel, the famous incident in the French and Indian War, where they all took shots at him and bullet holes went through his jacket and it didn't take him down. That event took place, ironically, less than 50 miles from where President Trump was shot on the stage at Butler, Pennsylvania. These things aren't accidents. It's not luck. I believe it's providence, and we talked about that. It's a remarkable thing. It would move any man's heart. I think it's moved the president's, and it's just something he's processing right now.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, it is interesting, because he is not just the nominee for the Republican Party, but also a former president. The reality is former presidents don't have the same kind of security bubble that current presidents do. You know, Jimmy Carter, you got to figure he does not have as big a bubble as the current president, nor does Barack Obama. They've got protection. But nonetheless, he is the nominee. He is a former president. He is in need of more security.
He is. That's very well said. And, you saw him compliment online yesterday the Secret Service that are protecting him now. I got a briefing from the acting director of the Secret Service, Ron Rowe, within 90 minutes of the event. I was actually sitting with President Trump when he called. We listened to that in detail. And what I understand happened is that those agents that were with him yesterday saw that barrel of that gun between the bushes on a golf course. I mean, that's a difficult thing to spot.
Right.
Thankfully, they did. But unlike in Butler, they did not pause. They immediately pulled their weapons and fired. I think that's why
this guy, the suspect, the shooter, threw the gun in the bushes and ran. Had they not been there, had they not acted so quickly and so decisively, we might be having a different conversation today. President Trump needs the most coverage of anyone. He's the most attacked. He's the most threatened, even probably more than when he was in the Oval Office. So we are demanding in the House that he have every asset available, and we will make more available if necessary. I don't think it's a funding issue. I think it's a manpower allocation.
Couple of things. Number one, Lindsey Graham brought up yesterday, it's time to spin off the Secret Service where it was, back to Treasury, got more attention, was able to focus. It's swallowed up by Homeland Security. Number two, to get to the higher levels of Secret Service, need a college education. We got Navy SEALs coming back at 31 years old, who are ready to go, and they're out of the military. And yet, if they don't have that college degree, they're not able to guard the president. Can we make some adjustments into the people that can get into those ranks?
Brian, desperate times call for desperate measures. We will look at all those things. As you know, I put together a task force in the immediate wake of the Butler, Pennsylvania, the shocking failure.
You want some DEI hires, bro? I thought y'all didn't like DEI hires. We're not putting them in there just because they're your Navy SEAL Marine bros, dude. They got to get that goddamn degree. They got to be qualified for the job. You see, these people lose their mind at times to forget that they're supposed to be saying DEI. It's not good. Now, come on, man. They just don't have the qualifications. Can we change the laws to get them in now? God, no.
Years lapses in security there. There are hearings coming up this month for that's task force. And of course, the Senate has its own Homeland Security committee looking into it as well. There's going to be reports and recommendations coming forward, and Congress will act swiftly. We need accountability. We must demand that this job is being done. I think there are some really patriotic, great people working in the Secret Service, but it's the leadership. We have no faith. I have no faith in Secretary Mayorkas, Department of Homeland Security. He's an abject failure. We impeached him in the House, as you know, but Chuck Schumer made it die in the Senate. So we've got to get accountability. We're working on it every day, and President Trump deserves every measure of that.
Mr. Speaker, what's the latest for Pennsylvania State Police? I know that today's the deadline for them to produce these records and updates about that assassination attempt 65 days ago in Butler. What's the latest? Are they working with you? Are they cooperating? And what do you expect?
They are. We expect them to turn over the evidence. I'll be shocked if they don't, and we'll take appropriate action. But it takes some time to do a deliberate investigation. There will be hearings, I think, not this week, but next in our task force, and a report due by the end of that same week. And so more and more of these answers will be coming out. The final report due shortly thereafter. So good work is being done. There's some extraordinary members of Congress working on it around the clock. And we have to do that. It's the top priority, a top priority for the American people.
Indeed. And in fact, we were just speaking to one of the task force members. They're going to ask for a briefing on what happened yesterday in West Palm Beach as soon as, 9 o'clock when they can do that. One of the things, Mr. Speaker, going forward, though, is that as this investigation has been handed over to the FBI, it sounds like the locals are going to press charges just to hold the guy. But Ron DeSantis, the governor of the great state of Florida, came out yesterday and he said, people need to know the truth. So we're going to do our own investigation, because he wants to know, how did this guy get within 500 yards of the former president and the current nominee? Do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah, sure. It's a great question. We all need to investigate it, local, state, feds, whatever's necessary. Look, I think what happened is, on a golf course, it's a lot of area to cover.
Yeah.
From what I understand and what President Trump understands, they were ahead of him 2 holes. There were drones being used over the course. That was not the case in Butler, Pennsylvania. I mean, obviously, some improvements are being made. And thankfully, they were at least 2 holes ahead, and they spotted that barrel through the bushes, which is a remarkable thing. Again, I think it's providential, but that's what happened. We'll be looking into all the details of it. Look, we got the Secret Service's attention. I think they're devoting every asset, but we're going to make absolutely sure that's true.
Lastly, separate note. We know the Democrats have outraged you, especially since Vice President Harris got the nomination. What's up, guys? D7 back at you. Let's talk about this Ralph character real quick, because there's a lot of red flags and a lot going on with what they're wanting to call the second Trump assassination attempt. Now, I'm on the social media stuff every day, and I'm watching it like in real time all the time. And I notice when shills pick up things and they run with it, even things that aren't even proven to be fact or anything like that yet. And what I witnessed was a ton of people running, saying that, Trump was shot at, shots intended for him is exactly what some people were saying. And what we've heard thus far here the next day, after watching all of the updates, all the police, all the FBI, everything they had to say, they said that their agents were a hole ahead of Trump and that they seen a barrel sticking out of the fence line. So they fired on it. And when they fired on it, the guy took off running, got in a car, got on the highway, and he was eventually caught on 995. Never once did they ever say that their agents were fired on. Not one time. Not one time. Was dude set up to do so? It looks like it. Well, why would you even attempt something like this with an AK-47 from that range, 500-600 yards? Like, makes no sense. He has a little camera set up there. Red flags flying all over the place with that. You know that the guy's criminal history, he was in possession of a weapon of mass destruction. You don't think that they didn't know who this guy was? Let's ask a common sense question real quick. How did he even know Trump was going to be there? How did he even know that Trump would be there? Just this morning, they're saying that it was a last minute decision for him to go golfing there. How did he know? How did he know the perfect spot to be set up in? All of them goods. Somebody let him know, obviously. And there's way more to this than what meets the eye. Also, looking at that Time magazine type image that was put out that shows Trump on the golf course and says trouble. Talked about predictive programming right there. All this stuff just doesn't make any sense. But the big question, how did he even know? Common sense things sometimes blow things out of the water more than anything. And let's just start there. I'm going to continue to update. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, on X. They did nuke all of his accounts. All of them.
A video where I said back in January 5th of 2024, Politico dropped an article saying something was going to happen involving Trump, and the title of the article was "A Passing at a Trump Rally," and they said something would happen on October 19th in Florida. Somebody would pass away. Now, this wasn't a Trump rally where this occurred, and it wasn't October 19th. I still believe something big will happen on October 19th or around that date, because we always have an October surprise. But I did state in a couple of videos now, we would not have a 2024 election due to a very big event. And if something happens to Trump, we would see violence across America like we've never seen before. That will lead to martial law. There would be lockdowns. There has been a lot of hints when it comes to media about a civil war too. We heard about a civil war in the Obama scripted movie, Leave the World Behind. There is a movie based on the Civil War. Now, I do want to let you know, you will hear me say Civil War and martial law and lockdown a couple times in this video. That's because this part was just edited in to the beginning of this video. Now, this will not be a very long video, but news reports are coming out that there was a second attempt on Donald Trump's life. Reading this article from CNN, because this was the first article to pop up after searching this story. This article from CNN is titled, "FBI Investigating Apparent Second Attempt on Donald Trump in Florida." The FBI said Sunday it is investigating what appears to be an attempt on Donald Trump. The former president is safe after shots were fired at Trump International Golf Club on Sunday. a Secret Service agent spotted a rifle barrel sticking out of a fence and engaged with the suspect, Palm Beach County Sheriff Rick Bradshaw said at a news conference late Sunday afternoon. The gunman was about 300 to 500 yards away from Trump, a Secret Service official said. Law enforcement found an AK-47 style rifle, GoPro, and backpacks where the suspect was positioned, Bradshaw said. The Martin County Sheriff's Office said a man taken into custody was relatively calm when detained. The suspect has not been named. There may be pictures out there of the suspect. I have seen a couple, but I do not know 100% if that is the suspect or not. I don't want to post that picture and it ends up being somebody else. There is a lot of bait and switching going on when it comes to the media, so we have to be extra careful as to what we post. But when it comes to this individual firing shots at Trump, there are people in the comment sections of my videos and my community posts saying, "Minutes of horror, you called this. You called it again." We even have somebody asking me if I'm a psychic, because this is not the first thing that I theorized that came true. More recently, for example, the whole Thomas Matthew Crooks situation, where I said in my video a little after July 13th, if another school pow-pow does indeed happen between now and October, I think I said October, remember who the original patsy was supposed to be, because they had the agendas crossed. They were going to blame Maxwell Yerrick, but for whatever reason, they messed up and announced Thomas Matthew Crooks. But Thomas Matthew Crooks was supposed to be used in a school pow-pow event. That's why Thomas Matthew Crooks' entire background was for somebody to cause a school pow-pow. And what did we see happen in Georgia? Thomas Matthew Crooks was bullied. He was bullied because of the clothes that he wore. Nobody would sit with him during lunch. They had people from his high school, middle school, elementary school come out and talk about his character as a child. This is a 20-year-old man who already graduated college. He had a full life after high school. And yet, everybody they are interviewing is from his high school. News and media are talking about him like he's still in high school, being bullied in high school. What does any of this have to do with what took place on July 13th? These things I'm not predicting. I'm not using tarot cards. I'm not even using gematria. I am going about this the old school way. I am looking between the lines as to what news and media are telling us. Now, I still believe something big is around the corner, and I think it's going to happen around October. I think this October surprise is going to be the biggest surprise we have ever seen before. Remember that news article that I read from Politico, that something's going to happen on October 19th. Now, I don't know exactly if it's going to happen on October 19th because I do not like to date drop. But they said that date specifically in Florida for a reason. What do we see today? We saw somebody trying to take Trump out in Florida. This is not a coincidence. Everything that I talk about on this channel is me reading between the lines from news and media. When people say minutes of horror, you're making up these crazy conspiracy theories. No, this is not me making it up whatsoever. This is what news and media are subliminally trying to put into our minds. We had Politico on January 5th, 2024. Now you can go back to that video because that video really didn't reach many people. So I do want people to go back to that video and watch that video, share that video, because we had Politico on January 5th, 2024 saying there would be a passing at a Trump rally on October 19th, 2024 in Florida. And here, what do we have? In Florida, somebody tried to take out Trump once again. My video yesterday where I said there would be no 2024 presidential election because something big is around the corner. I'm not making that up. Again, I was observing what was put on the 2024 Economist magazine cover, which already predicted another event. That magazine cover was telling us that Biden would be replaced by a female. Biden's not even on the cover, and that cover was created back in November of 2023. You can see opposite of Trump, there's a female. So again, I'm not trying to be a fortune teller or trying to give you conspiracy theories for no reason whatsoever. I am just making you aware of the hints and clues that are being dropped by the media. This whole UFO and alien card will be another card that may be played. We are seeing nothing but UFO and alien imagery in the media. We now have Congress saying there's going to be a second disclosure happening when it comes to UFOs. The VMAs were filled with nothing but UFO and alien imagery. The closing ceremony of the Olympics was filled with nothing but alien imagery. Non-stop since 2023 to 2024, yet before 2023, aliens and UFOs were nothing but swamp gas, weather balloons, a crazy conspiracy theorist talking point. They keep mentioning aliens and UFOs for a reason. They keep giving hints about something happening to Donald Trump for a reason. More than likely, they want a civil conflict to happen. They want a lockdown. They want martial law. This is why I believe there will be no 2024 election. And if there is a 2024 election, which there might be, there may be a selection. Now, who knows if that selection will make its way all the way to inauguration? They might play all these cards at once. Who knows? When there's this great conflict going on in the United States, a civil conflict, then they might drop on us the false stage alien invasion, Project Bluebeam. You never know. You never know with these people. Now, whether you like Trump or not, if something happens to him, it's going to be bad. It is going to be bad in the United States. And like I said, I can see lockdowns happening, martial law happening across the United States. The whole 2024 election canceled. Things will get really, really bad. And for a lot of people, it will be the last straw. It will be the straw that broke the camel's back. Now, I would not doubt one bit this is what certain people would want. Order out of chaos, a new world order. We even heard something like this in Obama's scripted movie, Leave the World Behind, which a lot of events that were in that movie came true. They said at the end of the movie, there was a civil war taking place. We also had that movie come out, Civil War. So there is a lot of Civil War subliminal messaging going on, predictive programming going on. You would not see anything like the 1800s where you had people line up firing on each other, different armies. No, a civil war in the United States would be what we see, like with the I-75 sniper. We would have snipers. We would have explosions taking place in different locations. It would be an extremely hostile time for the United States, more so than ever. Like I said, things would get to the point where they would introduce martial law. But if you are interested as to what I was saying in my last two videos, I will link those videos in the comment section below and the description box of this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this channel and you want to see more, please subscribe. Absolute chills. The man seen speaking in this video is Ryan Wesley Ruth, or the man who tried to do a second attempt on Donald Trump. And I wonder, why do these individuals always have middle names or three names? Now, yesterday, I made a very important video about the 2024 Economist magazine cover. And basically in that video, I said, we have been hearing a lot about unity, a one world government. And what's funny, somebody in my community post said, Minutes of Horror, when it comes to what happened with Donald Trump and the second attempt, I bet we are going to hear about unity. And well, we are, because this individual, Ryan Wesley Ruth, talks about just that, unity, coming together. Now, as I was listening to Ryan Wesley Ruth speak, the first thing that popped up into my mind was MK Ultra. The 2024 Economist magazine video that I made yesterday is a very important video, and I do advise to go ahead and watch it. Matter of fact, I will go ahead and pin the video in the comment section below, and I will put the video in the description box of this video. So please, after you watch this video, go ahead and check that video out as well and share it if you can. This is just another example of unity, oneness, coming together. This is a theme we have been seeing a lot of in 2024 for a specific reason. But I'm going to go ahead and stop talking, and I'm going to go ahead and play his interview now.
Please tell me who you are and why are you here?
56 from the U.S., from North Carolina.
originally, so I live in Hawaii now, so flew all the way from Hawaii here. So the question as far as why I'm here, to me, you know, a lot of the other conflicts are gray, but this conflict is definitely black and white. This is about good versus evil. This is a storybook, you know, any movie we've ever watched, this is definitely evil against good. I mean, we're battling a situation here where, you know, the Ukrainians and the rest of the world are caring and kind and generous and unselfish and take care of one another. And it's just a matter of, you know, we need to stand up for that. That is the most important thing in the world, is just to show human beings that we're kind and we're caring and that we take care of one another and that the world is united so that we feed each other and make sure that, you know, we all move forward as one collective whole unit. So, you know, we feel the pain of one country's failure and their conflicts, and we enjoy the successes of other countries that are doing good, and we all work together. And for some reason, Russia does not grasp this concept that we're all one unit, and we have to get along and work together and be normal human beings. This is 2022. We have to work together. It seems asinine that we have a leader in a country that does not understand the concept of being unselfish and being generous, being kind, and just the basic moral values that are required by human beings these days. It blows my mind.
And what are you doing here in Ukraine?
My initial goal was to come and fight. I think, you know, everybody around the globe should be motivated to come here and support the Ukrainians and support the army, no matter what gender, age, anything. Everybody should be here supporting the army. But I'm 56, so initially they were like, well, I have no military experience. So they're like, you're not an ideal candidate. So they said, not right this minute. So plan B was to come here to Kyiv and promote getting more people here. You know, we need thousands and thousands and thousands of people here fighting with the Ukrainians. We need, you know, we've got 190 countries around the world, and we need thousands from all of them. If the governments will not send their official military, then we civilians have to pick up the torch and make this thing happen. And we've gotten some wonderful people here, but it's a small fraction of the number that should be here. If we have 5,000, you know, to 10,000 people here fighting, you know, that is just a minuscule amount of the 5 billion people on the globe. You know, we need everyone here fighting. That's why I'm in Kyiv. So every project that I promote is about getting people here to support the Ukrainians. We're at a critical juncture in this war where we are sitting on the fence as far as whether good or evil is going to win. You know, right now we're looking at a situation where the world is waning and it's thinking that this is important or not. And we're at a point where, you know, all right, are we going to stand for humanity, for human rights, for everything that is good with the world? Or are we just going to ignore it? You know, if everybody is complacent and doesn't join this fight, then guess who's going to win? It might take 10 years, but we're going to lose this battle if everyone around the globe does not stop what they're doing, get off the couch, and come to Ukraine and defend the human rights of everyone around the globe. This is the most important thing going on in the world today. So sitting around and letting life go on as normal and complaining about gas prices and complaining about, you know, your luxury life in whatever country you live in is unacceptable. As human beings, we must support each other. We cannot turn our backs on anyone around the world and expect the problem to go away. So I've been dealing with Russia for my entire life. You know, we had one period where it was okay, but now we've let it slip back into terrorism. So it's just, the world needs to respond. You know, why world leaders are not sending military is beyond me. We're going to have to elect new leaders the next go around that have a backbone and that, you know, have the fortitude to say, hey, we're not going to tolerate this type of behavior. This type of behavior is unacceptable anywhere, any place, you know. So it's totally unacceptable. And why people are not responding, I do not know.
What impressed you the most since you are here?
My trip to Irpin was pretty emotional. So, going and seeing the buildings that were burned and destroyed and things of that nature. I think more emotional for me is just talking to the guys that have come here. When you talk to a 20-year-old guy that sold everything he owns to come here to fight, that is heroism. He's coming here to risk his life for humanity, for the Ukrainians. Guys that sell everything they own to come here and support the Ukrainians while others sit at home and do nothing. It's totally mind-blowing how we have this divide of people that are selfless and courageous and wonderful and willing to sell everything they own to come here and support, keep people from getting killed, to shelter kids and protect Ukrainians, and others that just, want to sit at home and not. It's just, it's an indictment of our entire human society to say, hey, where do we stand? Do we stand for good, or do we just not care? I mean, does the world not care? That's the feeling that I wrestle with every day in my interactions with everybody. Every one of us is responsible for the outcome of this war. Every one of us, by our actions and what we do. And, when I call back home and say, hey, I need $5 so I can, put enough money together to get a vest for a Ukrainian, and I get no response, I'm like, I'm not sure that the world is as wonderful as I once thought it was. I had thought that everyone would respond, very generously and unselfishly, and you don't have to come. But, if I ask for $5 to buy a vest to save a Ukrainian life, it seems like that would be a no-brainer. But I increasingly get more disappointed in humanity. And I'm beginning to question whether or not we're going to end up on the right side of this equation.
So you are working with the International Legion.
Yes.
And you are trying to convince people to help, to donate, and to join.
Yeah.
My final question is, what would you say to the people in order to convince them to join the International Legion, or to donate for it, or to be involved in the humanitarian aid to Ukraine?
Right. It's just extremely important, the whole thing. As far as joining the military, yes, if you have some military experience or know people with military experience, encouraging them to come and fight. We have units all over the place. So, there were some leadership issues initially, but we've got so many units available to us: Georgian, Crimean, Ukrainian, Territorial Defense, Foreign Legion. We have, so many paramilitary groups. I put a 74-year-old Japanese guy in a unit. So, we have girls in units. So we have two girls that are in the unit up the street. So any gender, any age, any skill level to no skill level. But yeah, if you want to fight, come here and see me, and I'll put you in a unit so you can go fight. But regardless of that, we should have thousands upon thousands of people standing here with the Ukrainians. This Maiden Square, Independence Square, we should have millions of people in this square, filling the square from every country around the world. And why we don't, I don't understand. I'm here every day with all the flags from all the supporting countries, with the memorials for the people that have died. And, I've had several people come, but just a handful, So it blows my mind that I'm standing here alone without thousands of people from every country, from Asia, from Africa, from Australia, from Canada, from everywhere in South America, every place.
Europe.
Europe, everywhere. We need everybody here. If you have no skills, just come. We need to be cheerleaders. Just being here and saying, hey, I support the Ukrainians, and I support human rights, and I support good and generosity and caring and kindness and altruism. And it's just, we need to show the world that we care. And it's essential. If you don't do any work at all, just being here and supporting and showing them that we care for our fellow human beings is the most important thing we can do.
One of my very favorite American commentators is the one and only Nico House. Nico is in the house again tonight on the mother of all talk shows. Nico, I've got to tell you, I'm beginning to wonder if everybody in the American presidential election is mad. I've just watched the wife of Tim Walz asking all Americans to turn the page, turn the page. She repeated it 10 times, turn the page, to accentuate Kamala Harris's plea to turn the page on the Trump years. I had earlier watched Tim Walz and thought he was straight out of Nurse Ratchet's care in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I've been watching the lunacy of Kamala Harris. And then I heard it's a Freudian slip, Joe Trump, Donald Biden. No, Donald Trump. I heard him. I watched him say that dogs and cats in America are at risk from aliens, he called them. He meant refugees from Haiti, which has been ruined by the United States and France before it for hundreds of years. So I'm looking for some sanity. Can you give me any?
Yeah, I can give you some. I'm not sure you're going to find it in this presidential election. Unfortunately, Kamala saying turn the page on the Trump years completely ignores and negates the fact that America did turn the page. They're on a different book. She is part of the book. And yet, and still Trump has a chance to win and probably will win, because when they turn the page, they realize this chapter was just as trash as the last chapter, if not worse. I mean, they turned the page from, a guy who drone striked and sent out mean tweets. And, it was problematic in the situation with Israel and Palestine as well. But when they turned that page, they ended up on a chapter where they're almost in World War III, where there's a genocide in Gaza, where, I know you're doing the poll right now, whether it be a war between Russia and NATO, but there's already a war between Russia and NATO. There is no more war between Russia and NATO. The outcome is World War III. That's where we're at right now. So while we're dealing with the realities of the consequences of our duopoly, because that's really the only way you can describe it, we're just dealing with consequences of duopoly, and no matter who wins, those consequences just change. But there will still be no progress, in my opinion, right now. We have to accept that we're dealing with morons, but the possibility of a World War III before Kamala takes over is real, because if she does win in November, they have the ability to invoke the 25th Amendment, or Joe Biden himself can choose to step down, which means you get somebody who is even more controllable than Joe Biden in power, which would be Kamala Harris. And then we could potentially have to deal with her for 3 months and then 4 years and then potentially another 4 years, George. So we're dealing with some silly people, but the consequences are very, very real.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if these people were just passing drunks or passing lunatics, we wouldn't have to worry about them. But they have their finger on the trigger, including the nuclear trigger. And I've been watching the Harris campaign. I've been watching her salivate over the possibility that the United States will have the most lethal, that's how she accentuated it, the most lethal fighting force on the planet, which isn't, of course, true, especially if you put all of America's selected enemies together, as they have successfully pushed them together. Actually, there are plenty of people who would be ready to contest that title, and the rest of us will be incinerated as a result.
Yeah, no, that's 100% true. I mean, Kamala was endorsed by Dick Cheney. This man has been, there's not been a time where he's held an official position in any administration, George, in my lifetime, where he was not the architect of a major war. He was the architect of, obviously, Afghanistan and Iraq, but a lot of people from my generation don't even know he was the architect behind the operation in Panama. And so Kamala
it has been so hawkish in her rhetoric that Dick Cheney looked at Trump and looked at Kamala and said, yep, that's my girl. That should scare everybody. But it also should give us some insight into just how hawkish she would be. And you're absolutely right. There's no reason to believe right now that America has the most powerful fighting force. First of all, morale is down in the military. So just from a manpower, labor power, and patriotic perspective, we don't have it. Weapons-wise, we like to believe that we have the best weapons, but Putin has already been very clear. He hasn't even gotten into his bag yet, George. He's using old weapons to beat down a Ukraine that's being funded by the entire Western world. With, once again, old weapons, while still having enough of his old weapons left on the side to give to other countries. And if China just decides one day to stop making our weapons, I don't know how we're supposed to fight a war, because they're going to be one of the people that are joining Russia. So I'm not really sure where they get this idea that America and NATO can actually continue to have this worldwide hegemonic dominance whenever nothing in the last 4 to maybe 8 years has shown us that. Look at what happened in Africa, whether it be Niger, whether it be Burkina Faso or any other country that have liberated themselves. They can't even keep themselves straight in Haiti right now. The reason the violence is still ongoing is because the United States, it's on its 3rd installed administration. And Haitians that they're calling gang members, in other words, these are people who are almost unorganized. They're organized to some degree, but they're not military trained, but they're fighting back NATO powers and people equipped with NATO weapons and NATO training. So where are they getting this idea that we can challenge Russia and the total dominance of the allies that they've accrued over the last several years? Partially because of how they've treated their allies, but partially because the United States has shown themselves to be nothing short of psychopathic.
Well, of course, the empire is striking back everywhere. The guys in sandals in the Yemen have just landed a ballistic missile, hypersonic missile, that in 12 minutes went from Yemen to destroy an important infrastructural development in Israel, evaded American surveillance in the Red Sea, evaded the surveillance of the Gulf countries over which it flew, evaded the security of Egypt, sailed up the Suez Canal at hypersonic speeds, and then did a dramatic turn to the right and smashed and destroyed an important facility in Tel Aviv without even a bell ringing, even an alarm sounding, never mind anyone sending something up successfully to intercept it. The world's changed now. Guerrilla, irregulars,
George,
asymmetric
our
forces.
tax money from I was saying our tax money to the Iron Dome is being spent well, huh? All that money we done gave already seems to be doing its job.
Exactly. So the tables have turned, Nico. The days when John Bull and then Uncle Sam could go around the world bombarding people and forcing them to do their will, these days are over now.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big change, isn't it?
It's about time. It's about time. It's about time. And you know what? I always say, as an American, and I believe you probably feel the same way as a Brit, there is a certain level of consequence that we have to accept because to some degree we've benefited, right? We've benefited from this empire. And even though we're part also of oppressed demographics of the empire specifically, at the same time, if you're not willing to challenge the empire, then what comes next, you better be prepared for, and you better be ready to be accountable, because it's one thing to benefit from being part of the empire because you just were born into it, but it's another thing to be complicit in what we've seen regarding Gaza, regarding the way we've seen our African brothers and sisters treated, the way we've seen the empire behave, even in the Caribbean, when we're looking at Haiti or when we're looking at Latin America, where I'm living at right now. You see the damage of the empire and what it has taken to keep the empire afloat when you go visit these places. And what I like is that we're seeing this pivot almost. It's slow. Maybe in the grand scheme of history, it's not that slow, but it seems slow. But if you're paying attention, NATO doesn't have control over the situation anymore. The United States doesn't have control of the situation anymore. What we're seeing seems to be mostly reactionary. I don't even think they have control over Israel anymore, right? So when we're looking at the grand scheme of things, not only are they losing control because of narrative, but like you said, just from an arms perspective, if Yemen can do that to Israel, Israel's supposed to have the greatest intelligence in the world, and that region of the world is their specialty. They didn't know that Yemen had that missile, or better yet, they didn't have the ability to stop it when it came. That is a major story, and it tells us everything we need to know about how things could look going forward. Y'all, we know what the United States has at play. We know what NATO has at play. They have zero idea what these other countries who have been kind of keeping their hands a little bit closer to the chest have to play. And like Russia said, y'all won't know until you find out. So I really hope that we don't have to find out the hard way, but it's not looking good.
No. Finally, a curveball. Are they really eating the cats and dogs in Springfield, Ohio? Where did he get that story from?
In Ohio was. Yeah, somebody from Ohio, which actually makes more sense than a Haitian doing it, if I'm being completely honest. I thought it was actually somebody from Ohio or somebody from Florida who was on vacation in Ohio for some odd reason. Those are usually... That's something that either people from either state would do, but no. It wasn't a Haitian, and a lot of people have been trying to figure out a way to push the narrative that Trump put out there. But that just tells you how ridiculous that debate was, because they were both lying out of their teeth. For those who had a little bit of hope that Trump was going to be better than Kamala and Joe, it's quickly fading. I'm not going to lie.
Jill Stein's doing very well. She's on the ballot in most of the country now. And she's well ahead of Harris in key demographics in swing states amongst Arab Americans, Muslim Americans. In Michigan, I think she's about 35 points ahead of Kamala Harris amongst these two key demographics.
Yeah, in Michigan, she's like at 300 or 400,000 voters in the poll they did, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, because that's just a poll. That's not even how many voters are actually going to vote for her. And it should be said, for those of you who don't know, there's not been a Democrat in this century who's won the election without winning Michigan. And when they do win Michigan, it is always marginal, by less than what Joe Biden lost during the primary, whenever the uncommitted voters decided to, with purpose, choose to ignore him and vote uncommitted. So that's a big deal. That's a huge deal. And once again, we have to remember these are the demographics that Democrats have always pandered to, but they've always needed. And so without the demographics on their side anymore, without the narrative on their side anymore, without anybody in genuine power, I'm not talking about Kamala. Kamala doesn't really have power. I'm talking about the Hillarys. I'm talking about the Bidens of old. I'm talking about Bill Clinton, Obama. Without anybody up next and the narrative not on their side, you do have to wonder what comes next, because I don't see Kamala winning this election. And from that point, it just becomes desperation. And unfortunately,
maybe they'll take us to war in order to avoid the election. Nico House,
Where are you guys? It's 6 hours before the debate. Hair and makeup is still not here. And this is unacceptable. When this is over, you're all fired. Bring the neck mask.
Here I am with Kamala, by the way, who I agreed to debate because I love to debate, and I'm a very good debater. I love to debate.
That's debatable. Okay, very debatable.
What are my thoughts on immigration?
I think it's a perfectly fine question.
It's a very nasty
question. And we're going to be doing a lot, because there are people over there, and there are people over here, okay? And we want, okay?
Slow down, little Kamala. Don't hurt yourself. There's people, they want to come into the country, and there's some people they want to leave the country. And I think if they want to leave, they should leave. And if they want to come in, we should put them in jail.
That is
actually so inappropriate. And that is exactly what I'm talking about.
They're coming from outer space and Oaxaca.
Okay, I'm speaking. All right.
The Democrats, they say the price is right, but it's very wrong. It's very wrong, and we're getting rid of prices, and we're giving away a lot. We're giving away vegetables.
The second presidential debate, first for Kamala, took place a couple of days ago, and there's still a lot of talk about it.
The moderators were clearly on Harris's side. They tried to fact check and debunk Donald Trump many times. I do not recall them fact checking or questioning Harris once. Another thing that I noticed they were doing, they would go back and try to force Donald Trump to give like a more full or definite answer on the question. However, Harris wanted to answer the question, and they never asked her to repeat herself to actually answer the question. Like the first debate question was about the economy. Harris didn't answer it. They asked her about her withdrawal from Afghanistan. Harris didn't answer it. But when they felt like Donald Trump wasn't giving a full answer, they would ask him to actually answer the question. Many times throughout the debate, I felt like Donald Trump was debating not just Harris, but three people. If we're going to have a debate, can it not just be fair? Trump shouldn't have to be debating the moderators. He should only be debating Harris. If they're clearly on one side, then the moderators should just keep their mouth shut, ask the questions, and be fair. I can't stand debates where it's so clear who the moderators want to win. It's bullshit. It's definitely not democracy.
It sounds like the general consensus is it was a 3v1 situation, the moderators and Kamala versus Trump. Even CNN, who's very much pro-Kamala in their coverage, called out how the debate was handled.
Vice President Harris began the debate by punting the first question on the economy. Despite the economy being the number one issue facing the country, the sitting vice president generally reverted to talking points about a few of her policy proposals. Even Harris allies today are saying that she needs to talk more about what she will do for Americans if elected. Senator Bernie Sanders will be here in a second to talk about more about the need for her to fill in some of those blanks. On the border, another vulnerable issue for Harris, she also dodged. When asked how she would break through the Israel-Hamas war stalemate, Harris said this.
We need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that.
Okay, but again, how?
I'm here with little Kamala. She's very small and weak, by the way.
I'm a normal-sized human being. Okay, normal-sized human being.
Like a little baby puppet of the Democrat Party. What a shame. What a shame. And we're going to debate about a lot.
Healthcare crisis. Okay, policies different.
A lot of great things. Right. And healthcare, excuse me.
I'm speaking.
Excuse me.
What?
Healthcare is very good. Everybody should have health. I believe that Americans, they deserve health. And the Democratic Party, they don't want you to have health.
We want healthcare. Right?
They want you to die. She's so small, little Kamala. She'll never beat me because she's a tiny little... tiny person, by the way.
I'm not small. I'm a full-size human being. Okay.
And we're debating on a lot of issues, a lot. And quite frankly, I think that healthcare is very good.
Yeah, right.
Everybody should have. Everybody.
I'm speaking. Okay.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Everybody should have health.
Yeah,
Everybody.
I agree.
And some people, the Democratic Party, they don't want health. They don't want. They want to kill you. They want to put heroin in your head. They want to put heroin in your brain.
That's absolutely false.
They'll have you shop at REI.
Oh, me and Doug, we love shopping at REI. We do it on Saturday.
But they
nights.
probably won't even shop there. They'll do a smash and grab, and they like REI because they have tents and they want to live in the tents. They want
pitching tents for camping.
And they want everybody to live in tents. They want everybody in the country to live in a tent like the Big Top Circus.
You also had a bunch of viewers accusing Kamala of using an earpiece during the debate.
Was Kamala Harris wearing an earpiece during her debate with Donald Trump?
Wait a minute. So just like Joe Biden needed an earpiece to assist him in a debate with Donald Trump, are you telling me that Kamala Harris also had a very, very expensive earpiece on where they were coaching her through the questions on the debate?
Did you guys see this? You guys are being bamboozled once more with someone whose mind can't even answer questions on their own without being coached in their ear. America, is that okay?
And what you know now, do you wish like you had a third term? And I used to say, you know what, if I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats, looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony. I'd be fine with that.
The next word is milieu. Timothy?
Milieu.
Yeah, give me 3 fish sandwiches and 5 fries.
System! He's wired!
Milieu. Yay, he's slow.
So I'm finding out this morning that one of the moderators, the lady that was up there, is actually Kamala's sorority sister. So you have the sorority sister, and then you have her best friend that is one of the execs. So now we know why there was a 3-on-1 debate.
Because how could I not?
That's another revelation made after the debate. The ABC moderator is Kamala's sorority sister. Yes, Lindsay Davis and Kamala Harris are both AKAs, further giving legs to the idea that ABC was in cahoots with Kamala. Then you had the leader of the company and her husband. They're really tight friends with Kamala, and even introduced the vice president to her husband. So yeah, the idea that ABC colluded with her, it's not so far-fetched when you look into all the ties. On top of that, you also have Donna Brazile over there. She's the one who gave Hillary the questions back in 2016 when Hillary debated Trump. Overall, if you're a Kamala supporter, the debate didn't change that. If you're a Trump supporter, well, he still got your support too. The audience that Kamala and Trump really needed to win over, who's that audience? The independent voters. And post-debate research revealed that independent voters were more turned off by Kamala in the debate. Yeah, bad news for Kamala. Post-debate polls are showing that independents favored Trump over her. They're not buying the pre-rehearsed answers to the questions. Many are not fanatics of either Trump or Kamala, so they can see a lot more clearly. And what they saw was a woman who could never put together 2 sentences on the fly, all of a sudden come out and immediately answer questions with what appeared to be memorized monologues and carefully tailored responses that didn't address the questions. The flip-flopping was ignored too, which is ultimately backfiring on Kamala, because if you went into the debate not knowing anything about her, well, when she came out of the debate, you still know nothing about her. And yes, that's okay for the vote blue no matter who crowd, but for moderates and independents, that's a major problem for the Harris campaign. Let's go ahead and get the conversation started. Let me know what you think about this below. Special thank you to Dr. Troy.
Lose elections. So they think they're helping, throwing water on a grease fire. This is what Joy Reid and Eli Misto did here. Ellie Misto.
To do things, Ellie, that one would think are career-ending. The way he desecrated Arlington National Cemetery would be career-ending for a normal politician. His constant lies. But even this piece about saying, well, my building was the tallest until, they brought down the World Trade Center. Now it's the second tallest. I mean, everything he does is despicable.
The reason why it doesn't end his career is because his supporters are just as despicable. All right. Like Trump's whole thing, he's a narcissist, right? And so his whole thing is to have a complete lack of compassion and empathy for everybody else. It's all about him. That's why he lies about 9/11.
And you hear him? He said all the Trump voters are despicable. What are Kamala Harris voters? What are they, Ellie?
No, sir, it's a good question. I wish you could answer it. Contrary to popular opinion, anything that's really pro-black, like really supporting black Americans, that needs to be done, that we will bring up, people like Ellie would shoot it down. Now's not the time. That's because Ellie's doing well. It's got lots of money and lots of fancy friends. But that's who he is. He's a guy that can dish it but can't take it. And what I'm saying, man, about the diminishing returns on this type of gaslighting about the Trump supporters. You don't do anything but create more Trump supporters. I get it. Ellie Mister was not running for president. He's just a lawyer who went, he quit being a lawyer so he could be a media provocateur. And that's what they call Democratic operatives, media provocateurs. But they run around and they just jump on every cause, every issue, and try to get some limelight. And they're part of the DNC, Democratic Party, media industrial complex that frequents all these platforms, and they kind of rotate. And as long as you're in the in crowd, you get to get in there and be loud. And you get to be able to point at people that are not in the in crowd and shame them, particularly voters. And notice, guys, if VP Harris doesn't win, none of them will remember this.
Donald Trump says he connects with black voters, now especially because of his felony conviction.
He got indicted a second time and a third time and a fourth time. And a lot of people said that that's why the black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against.
He also says that he's not a racist because he has a lot of black friends. Yeah. Your thoughts?
Well, on the first point, as connected to the second point, it's insulting. Yeah. It's insulting for a number of reasons, including he has reduced a whole population of people down to a sum total of what is in his mind who they are. And he's wrong. And he's wrong.
None of them will remember how rude they were, how off-putting they were, how disgusting they were, how elitist they were. Yeah, it's no mistake that when you look at the Biden supporters and the Kamala supporters as far as, income, as far as wealth, it's a big difference between them and the average, like, Trump supporters. It's basically a civil war.
I think that people have to just level set a little bit, relax a little bit, stop hyperventilating. Donald Trump is not going to get 20% of the black vote. He's simply not. Black voters traditionally, as we go throughout this process, as you get to Labor Day, et cetera, a lot of black voters do come home to the Democratic Party.
It's the haves and the have-nots, right? Because the Trump supporters need things to change. And, the Kamala Harris supporters, not so much. They can vote for somebody who's going to bring no change at all because things are going pretty good. And when life is going pretty good, you're content with just seeing something look better. It'd be really nice. It'd be really nice if we put some nice pictures up here. Let's go shopping for art. That's how you talk when you got money. But when your ribs is touching and the bills they added up, you ain't thinking about no damn art. You're thinking about, hey, how am I going to get to work next week? And that's the difference. And it's not just the way they treat Republican voters or the way they treat MAGA supporters or Donald Trump voters. It's also the way they treat black folks, particularly black men. Oh, man, black men get treated awful by the Democrats. We're seen as the weakest link.
Don't tell me that somebody's Latin or Asian. I think that shouldn't be the predicate anyway. But if you are accusing her marital choices, you better make sure yours are in line with the accusations you make. We are not the same if these are, well, she ain't black enough. I tell you what, she's a black woman. She went to Oakland. She's from Oakland. She went to an HBCU. She's an AKA. She had a boyfriend named Willie. And she got a name, first name that's hard for everybody to pronounce. It sounds different than it's spelled. That's black enough for me. But what I do know for sure is that she can win if we decide it is so. And if that is not your goal, we are not the same. Your we and my we are not the same.
We want the weakest link when they use our likenesses and our deaths to raise money for their organizations, their private organizations. No, but we're the weakest link when we say, hey, we want something from this party that our parents and our grandparents, because it looks like about 60 years, we've been voting for this party exclusively almost as a block. for about 60, 70 years. And we're saying, like, what are we getting for it?
The left before we walked in here was about justice, diversity, trigger warnings, reparations for the past, and a bunch of party poopers and scolds. That was the knock on the left. We have gone from talking about justice, which is wonderful, but now it's about freedom. It's not just about diversity, it's about patriotism. It's not just about trigger warnings. In fact, that's gone. It's tough, tough, tough. Reparations for the past? No. Fight for the future. Party poopers? No. We legalize fun. We legalize fun.
These people are happy as long as we got some black faces in high places. Black faces, high places, and that's mainly because it's their faces. Get what I'm saying? But that ain't enough for the average working type black folks. Because that doesn't change our lives at all. It changes their lives. And they're fine with that because it's their lives doing the changing. So when we say we want change, we get people like Roland Martin coming out telling us we don't understand civics. Speaking of that, when Representative Crockett and when Roland Martin are telling you that we don't understand civics, we don't get it, that a president can only work through Congress. I put out a little ebook about this because I'm tired of the continuous gaslighting about what presidents can do. Obama got a lot done without Congress. In fact, my ebook, How Presidents Can Impact the Country Without Help from Congress, that's available free. It's free right now on my website, presidentialimpact.com. And if it's not that, it's people like Joy Reid who say, well, hey, you're black and Kamala's not black. So you got to vote for her because, come on, y'all. That's what it is. And I'm like, yo, you black too, but you're not black American. So stop telling me that because Kamala's a black person, that means something.
I'm struggling to understand what is the attraction of Donald Trump to black people. I don't get it. Now, I know that, for instance, the black women, I'm not with her people, those, for the most part, are existing Republicans. They were already Republicans. These are not like people who were converted by something Trump did that, made them into, no, they were already Republicans. Just like the lady in the Chick-fil-A was a Republican. She's already there, the one who hugged Trump. And so their purpose was always going to be to support Trump. So it's not that. What is the attraction of Donald Trump to just a regular, ordinary black person that's not already a paid Republican operative?
I'm going to answer that question with a question. What is the attraction to the Democratic Party for someone who's not a paid operative of the Democratic Party who is not Congolese American or whatever that is that you are? I mean, since we're asking questions, maybe we could, we could come to an understanding about each other. Because, see, I don't support either one of these parties. I don't push people into the Republican Party, but unlike you, I don't push people into the Democratic Party. And I hold the Democratic Party accountable because over 90% of black people vote for them every election. You have no solutions other than to stay quiet and stay on a plantation. Meanwhile, you are multi-millionaire. Talking to people that barely can put the gas in the car or people that can barely take a vacation to Disney World, that's their dream. Something you wouldn't do unless you had a gun to your foot. Unless somebody had your greens and about to throw them out. You're like, okay, I'll go. Don't throw my greens out because I've been cooking them in my tub for 2 nights. Or washing them in her tub. Right along with the butt cheese. Right? See, this is what I'm talking about, folks. This is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with people who are the 1% of America talking to people who work for a living and saying, I don't understand why you need time off. I don't understand why someone's saying no tax on tips might be interesting. He said he grabs women, models. He touches them and they let him because that's what models do. You should vote for someone who does that. Someone who got a bunch of charges and would have never got him if he wasn't president. Oh, no. And all they keep saying is, why you voting for him? And I'm not voting for him. I'm trying to hold whoever we vote for to a higher standard so I get something back for my people. It doesn't seem like you care about that, Joy, because maybe Black American people ain't your people. And maybe broke Americans or middle class or below middle class Americans aren't the people that you relate to, because that's not who you are. Maybe once upon a time, you didn't have as much money as you have now. But you were never single family, shopping in thrift stores, homeless, were you? You were never in jail coming off of a bed like a lot of brothers are you? Or whose fathers are that way, are you? See, I hear a lot of these stories from people like Joy Reid, and they can't relate to the plight of what's going on with Black Americans in the year 2024. Nor are they trying to learn. What they are trying to do is go to all the fancy parties with all the highfalutin Democrats, all the highfalutin Democratic operatives who are Black faces in the highest of places. I'm a friend of Kamala. Me and Kamala are pals. I talked to her several times. I talk to her all the time. We basically cousins. We basically best friends. I hear this some time and time again from these Black commentators on MSNBC especially, but also CNN. And these entertainers who are big-time buddies and friends with Kamala. And that's all they really care about. They don't care about the struggling. They don't care about the working or the hurting class. Shout out to Reset Race. But I digress. The problem that we have here is a failure to communicate. And maybe, just maybe, if you don't get your girl Kamala in the office, y'all gonna have to do some, self-reflection for a change and say, hey, them Black people woke up. Now what we gonna do? What we gonna do? Because I want to keep my money train running. What we gonna do now? And maybe the Black community gonna stop voting at 90%, 90 to 95% for one party. And then when we say, hey, what you got for us? They say, pull your pants up, Pookie. I'm not the president of Black America. I'm the president of America. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that only helps Black people. Hey, when people ask me, I'm not even going to say I'm a Black American and I stand on it. I'm going to say,
is what he said last month. He suggested that you happened to turn Black recently for political purposes, questioning a core part of your identity.
Yeah.
Any
same old tired playbook. Next question, please.
That's it? That's it. Okay.
I'm above these discussions. I'm colorblind. I don't even know what tie that you got on. What color is your tie? I can't see it. I'm colorblind. I digress. They're trying to get Black people to shut up and get in line, put their friend in office so they get jobs, so that they collect money, so that they can enroll in his case, so he can charge the DNC and events. He can maybe host some events. He's going to be close to the most powerful person, arguably, in the world. And that's a huge incentive to want to see that person become president. And part of doing that is tapping down on the expectations that we have for Joe Biden and for the current administration. They don't even want us to think about the fact that Kamala is a part of the current administration, but Kamala doesn't want to separate herself from it. So when Black men like myself and Black women too, who criticize the current condition that's going on right now, they defend it. Throw our children 40% of the poverty, beneath the poverty rate, with 40% of the homeless rate, with 50% of homeless families. We only get 7% of the SBA loans, and that's up from 2.5%, which is lower than Hispanics and, of course, white Americans. In fact, Hispanic Americans are almost double us when it comes to SBA loans. But see, these are all inconvenient truths and realities that people don't want to talk about. So when I talk about them, that's considered bad. That's not good. That's not the good trouble that John Lewis was talking about. See, when black people complain about black people in power, now we're talking about bad trouble, because it's bad trouble when you make trouble for people that resemble you in some way. We at that time, guys, but we don't have time for the nonsense. We way overdue. We way overdue to raise our fists. The time for us to be civil, to be calm, to be nice about it, that's over. Now we got to be able to call these people out in real time. Now we got to address the issue. Hillary Clinton called the Republicans that voted for Donald Trump deplorables.
You can put half of Trump's supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. Right? The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it. And unfortunately, there are people like that.
Ellie Mister, what he called him? He called him something else even worse. Degenerates, horribles.
Everything he does is despicable. The reason why it doesn't end his career is because his supporters are just as despicable.
Horrible people that will put up with a horrible president. As if Joe Biden was so great. As if Obama was so great. Obama was a struggle pie. When other groups bit into it, not as much. It's a little sweeter when they bit into it, wasn't it? So yeah, I'll be your deplorable, your degenerate, your outcast, your bad trouble, your weakest link. Oh, if that's what it is, that's what you want to call me, fine. Just don't call me a sheep. Don't call me somebody who's going to lay down for this nonsense. And don't call me someone who's going to give in. I told y'all, I'm a troublemaker. I'm a fight backer. I fight back.
Kofi, follow me.